Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below this video once the video has rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you're currently watching, then click the link in the info box to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join the panel, please do not swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as this increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. We are joined by Sleeping Warrior and Arwin. How are you both doing, gentlemen?
Good morning. All is well.
Good afternoon.
Indeed, that too.
Yeah, happy Good Friday to you both.
Yeah, about humbug.
Been out on my Easter egg hunt this morning. Fun.
I'm sorry, I'm just being totally distracted. She's had all morning to chat to me, and for some reason now she wants to have a conversation.
It's all good. That's perfectly acceptable.
Oh my god. I'm going to stick myself on mute for a minute.
No bother.
All right.
So what do you know, Arwin?
What, me?
Yeah.
What do I know?
Yeah, what do you know? Found any curve yet?
Nope. Still, no, that still seems to be missing. I'm currently watching the Convex Earth documentary, and it's pretty good. It's really cool to see how much detailed effort they put into it, and they had really good equipment, and they even basically let in some pretty decent globe theorists to join in the movie and express their views, and yeah, so far it's pretty good. And yeah, I'm like at 1 hour mark, and they haven't found any curvature there yet.
Oh, you've not watched the full thing yet?
No, not completely. No, I still there's still 1/3 left.
Okay, yeah, I watched the full thing. There was a couple of mistakes in there which Anthony immediately pounced upon and pointed out to me. And although I had noticed in a fleeting manner while I watched it, I kind of paid it no attention to take the general gist of it. And once these couple of errors were pointed out to me, I was like, are they translation errors? As opposed to, I don't think they've actually calculated it incorrectly. I think it's probably just a translation. Someone put meters where kilometers were more appropriate, or the other way around, sorry.
Well, that seems like, yeah, that's such a big mistake. They would spot it.
Yeah, I think so.
Well,
I think
there's
it's just translation.
land surveyors there and everything, so
Let's get
they
the
won't
dirty,
make that mistake.
let's get the dirty part of it out of the way. I mean, there's only three. I saw three mistakes, but Ranty said one of them might not be. Maybe it was just to do with me interpreting it. But the first mistake was they said that they were working from the Straits of Gibraltar, and when they zoomed in on the map, they showed the south of France, and obviously the Straits of Gibraltar on the south of Spain. And where they were showing on the south of France was obviously the Mediterranean. It wasn't the Straits of Gibraltar at all. It's a whole country out. If we'd have made that mistake, then obviously we'd have been laughed at. And I don't think that's a translation thing. I think that's just somebody with bad geography that's not from the area. The other mistake they made was when they were talking about the height of the house. They said the amount of bulge was 6.3 meters, which was equivalent to a 3-story building. And I thought 6.3 meters, that's like 6, 12, 18, 19, about 21, 22 feet. I thought a 3-story building is not 22 feet tall. That's ridiculous. So obviously they compared it to a 3-story building. Really, they should.
How tall is a 3-story building, in your opinion?
A 3-story, well, the ceiling's what? So it's 8, 10, at least 30 feet. So it's 10.
It's 20 meters, right?
6.3 meters.
Oh, 6, yeah. Yeah, that is kind of short.
Yeah,
like
6.3.
a 2-story building more.
So so essentially, like a building of 3 stories would have at least 3 floors of at least 8, 9 feet ceiling height, and then like the floors on top of like a foot on top or whatever. You're talking 10 feet for a floor. So 10, 20, 30 feet it should be. It's like 2/3 of the height they're claiming it is. So
Seems like a side note, because they just mentioned a height and then compared it to a building, and well, it's not very good comparison in this case.
it's exaggeration, if
Yeah.
not mistake. So one or the other, either way, it was one or the other. And then with regards to the third mistake that I spotted was when they were doing the heights of the tall tower comparisons around the curve. When you measure the distance between the bottom of the towers, it should be smaller than the distance between the top of the towers if the top of the towers are following a curve. And they said that it was 3,050 kilometers. And I thought, that can't be right. There's no way, because from memory, when I watched it, I got the impression they were measuring it with, they were getting a line of sight with it.
No, that's a different experiment. No, they actually pointed out one was like in the north, the total northern point of Brazil, and the other one was like in Argentina or something. So
all right, so
there
Ranty
was a
right
very
then.
big distance. There's no line of sight, definitely not there.
All right, okay. Well, in that case, Ranty was right. I misunderstood what they were saying, but ultimately they weren't in the Straits of Gibraltar, and they weren't. The height of the building that was obscuring the hump at 6.3 meters wasn't equivalent to a 3-story building. But other than that, I thought it was quite interesting to see that they're all doing the same kind of experiments that we're all doing in a different part of the world without seeing our work, and us not seeing their work. And they're coming up with the same results and the same conclusions based on the results, and we're all getting the same interpretations. And that's not a coincidence, is it?
Well, I was absolutely astounded when they actually addressed the optics and the effects of the mirage, as they started out calling it. And they they pretty much described it exactly the way that I've been describing it. Like, the refraction zone and everything beneath that gets distorted, and it reflects back upon itself, and it's the same thing. And it's just amazing that these people independently came to the exact same conclusion.
They had a whole
sorry to interrupt. Do you mind if I just I'll inject something that DITRH said, which was on a video that he mirrored. So he mirrored one section, maybe a minute long, with them putting the little lens over the azimuthal equidistant map for the sun. And his comment below, which he pinned, so I assume he wants people to read it and take in, because I completely agree with him, which is why I'm going to parrot pretty much what he said, which was that overall he was, for the documentary, and he put a link to the documentary and was obviously promoting it by mirroring a small section of it. But ultimately he expressed the same concerns that I did initially when I was saying maybe it's controlled opposition. And the reason I felt that was echoed by DITRH, in the respect that what they're showing is a rock in space. Yes, they gave their satellite explanation and showed how it would work, and pretty much, mirrored exactly how every other flat earther would describe if there were satellites in space, how they would potentially work, them traversing the equator, on a magnetic field line or whatever. But the point being that when they showed that depiction, they still showed it in a spacey type environment. And that was my concern from the off, just from the depiction. I know one Globehead called it sort of toilet bowl Earth or bedpan Earth because of the way it looks. And
geode Earth, it was like a
geoid. Yeah, I know what you mean, like with the crystals inside. Yeah,
exactly.
That too.
That's immediately what it reminded me of.
Yeah, I agree.
After an hour, I haven't seen anything that even points in the direction of the Earth actually being that shape. So it's almost more like it's just an art thingy.
Well, maybe. I mean, when you see it done by the Flat Earth Society, obviously it's extremely concerning. Whereas when these guys did it, the way I took it, having, but I got to the end and sort of digested what I'd just watched and thought, no, the way they seemed to present it was to make it more palatable for a newbie. In other words, if you have a bit like Mark Sargent did initially with the way he laid it out, it made it very digestible for somebody who had no concept of flat Earth. And they didn't say the words flat Earth at all, as far as I can remember. They would say it displays no curvature and phraseology of that effect. But ultimately speaking, they sort of kept it, in my opinion, it was done in a way that was conducive of somebody not having to have a massive paradigm shift to be able to watch it. They could still take in some of the concepts of what was going on in a global way, because they retained some spacey elements in their presentation. And while I didn't like it, I still kind of understood why they did it.
Well, I think there might have been also just distribution, that they did it for distribution purposes, because by avoiding these types of words, they'll get less friction from the general public, and that way it will be more distributable over through media, and they will have a bigger chance of actually being aired on TV and that kind of stuff. So I think it was a tactical decision for them to avoid the words flat Earth and all of that. And
Sure.
I thought it was pretty smart.
Yeah,
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah,
I
go
had the
on.
benefit of not seeing it immediately, and I obviously rang Nathan and said, "Hey, have you seen it yet?" And Nathan said, "Yeah." And I said, "What do you think?" And his words were, "They don't use the words flat in the whole play, in the whole documentary." So armed with that knowledge, I paid attention to whether they actually did refer to it as flat, and they did actually refer to it on a few occasions as flat. But what they said was, they said it's flat, but the land is convex in that they kind of described it like a volcano. It's lower at the edges and it peaks in the middle, making the North Pole would be the vent of the volcano. But they described the overall plane as flat. So yeah, they did say flat, but it was qualified by the land being volcanic shaped. So they did say that, and it was interesting to see how they lined all the land up, because they literally turned some of the continents upside down, kind of thing, which means that towns that were next to each other where the join used to be no longer is anywhere near it. And I thought that was really interesting. But it was interesting to see their take on it, given that they're not in the flat earth discussion or debate, or they don't seem to be. They're not on YouTube or whatever, or at least they don't know anybody, obviously, as far as we can see. Yet they came to all the similar kind of results that we did, and the laser experiments were fab.
Yeah, that was something else DITRH pointed out, was that there wasn't really anything new, and I picked up on that. That was something else when you asked me what it was, and I said, well, it's a condensed version of everything I've seen over the last 3 years in a nice format, condensed into about an hour and a half, which is excellent. You know, if you've got no knowledge of some of these tests that have been done, laser tests and microwaves, I think they were using radio waves, etc., etc. All of these different methodologies for proving that the Earth is flat have been utilised at some stage in the last 3 years, recent history, in other words, very recent history, by some of us. So to see it done by these guys was fantastic. You know, it's been done in a similar way, but put together, it does make more impact, or at least I thought it did. You know, if you've got bash, 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 one after the next, showing how these experiments roll out and what they show at the end of them, you go, it is definitely compelling. If you're a newbie, that is.
Yeah. Well, I liked how they focused mainly not on like, the Earth is flat, but rather than there is just no curvature, so it's not that ball, and then
To be fair,
unfolding the ball into the rectangular map.
To be fair, there was something new that we haven't, or I've not seen anybody do. It was the buildings where they measured the bottom and the top of
Yes,
the buildings.
you're right. That is new. That concept was certainly the first person I saw that was 3 years ago. It was Smokescreen Design, and he was doing it in reference to travel distances with airplanes, and I picked up on it, or to put it another way, completely stole his idea and just copied him and made the same demonstration. But yeah, with the buildings, I thought that was an excellent new example of something that, I mean, maybe it's been done before, but I certainly hadn't seen it. But yeah, exactly. So they're measuring the difference between the top and the bottom. So regardless of your local geography, and we all know that they're building this stuff on a flat plane, but you know, the argument from the Globe side was it's very local to, you know, their level transit that they've got after referencing the geoid for their single starting point. But that's an aside point. The point is that when you're measuring referencing two completely different locations that have been surveyed locally, and then you compare the top of the building with the bottom of the building, if they're built on a curve, obviously the top of the building is going to be a greater distance away from the there's going to be a bigger distance between the tops of the building than there is at the bottom, and there wasn't. So I thought that was good too. I like that. That was new. You're right.
Yeah. I enjoyed the laser experiments that were done with multiple lasers rather than a single.
Looked cool,
light.
didn't it? Looked ace.
Yeah. And I love that they had controls in the middle as well, which basically proves that there was no curve, because if there was curve, then it would be above or below the boat, right? And it wasn't. It hit them exactly where you would expect it to be on a flat plane. And I'm thinking, how are these guys going to get past this? How are these ballers? And of course, what they'll do is they will dismiss it by consensus, which is the MO when they're trying to make points with regards to any part of, dodgy bit of evidence. they'll just dismiss this as evidence, and they'll find any explanation or any justification. Yes, and they'll all hold each other's willies, and they'll all support each other. And ultimately, how do you get past that? The lasers were completely and utterly right.
Well, individually, they've got debunkings for all of those, actually. I mean, I've seen them come and go and seen the arguments that come with them. Are they conclusive? Well, no, of course not. We wouldn't still be here having these arguments if they'd been conclusively debunked. But there's, mathematical explanations and ad hoc reasoning that you can get around if you're a globehead. On an individual basis, but like I say, because there's such a quantity of it in one video, it's like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? You can really smack someone over the head with it if you're a newbie and you've got no idea of what's been done already.
Can you explain what the debunk is for the laser where it passes over the boat in the middle?
A refraction, of course.
They're gonna have the only way they would be able to prove refraction of lasers in the atmosphere would be to set up a time-lapse photography showing that every 10 seconds a laser beam was fired across to a known target and show the variation in where it was refracting.
Don't be crazy, man. You don't need to express any of this with evidence. Just do the maths, man.
Yeah, that's. Well, remind me to mention Rupiff in a minute. Because he's got a P900, hasn't he? So I've given him a challenge and it's causing issues because he can't find south. He thinks he can, but he can't. But we'll come to that in a minute. Let's stay on this documentary for a minute.
Fair enough.
So ultimately then the buildings, the top and the bottom of the buildings. I mean, I thought that the two strongest points that they made were the top and the bottom of the buildings and the multiple lasers that weren't like this refracting all the place to like all this crazy refraction that Rumpus describes. Them two for me were the best. Arwin?
Yeah.
What do you think? What did you think were the best examples of proofs?
Within the movie, you mean?
Within the doc? No, get in your brain when you had a dream last night. Of course, in the movie.
Okay.
Sorry, I will just woke you back up again, Arwin.
No, yeah, I got my coffee and I missed a couple of minutes there.
Oh, right.
But yeah, no, I haven't finished the entire movie yet. So I'm only, I think I went through most of the proofs. I think one of the most interesting things among the experiments that they did was one of the laser experiments where they were shining lasers across this lake, and on one side there were these trees, basically, weird dead tree thingies, sticks. They look like sticks sticking out of the water partially, and at that location they did like an extra test where they were one guy used a laser pen and the light, and then from different heights tried to shine towards the other side to make it visible. And he actually did it on like foot height, like not even 10 centimeters off the water. And on the other side, they could still see it. That was really interesting.
I was quite surprised how low they got to the water. I've got to admit that did,
that was
raised
really,
an eyebrow.
really astounding. That
but to be fair though, there is one prominent flat earther that's rising the ranks really quickly that's done the exact same thing and he didn't get any traction, and I was gobsmacked. Taboo Conspiracy did the exact same thing. He had his wife bent on down on her knees with the flashlight, basically getting wet in the water, and he was 8 miles away from her, and he could see her light clearly, and nobody really picked up on that. And I was like,
no, I never heard of that.
Yeah, 8 miles observation over a freshwater lake somewhere near where he lives. I don't know exactly where it was, but 8 miles. So she was on her knees, and the water. She was basically almost getting wet, and he could see her clearly. And I was like, "Wow!"
This is Taboo Conspiracy, wasn't it?
Yeah,
yeah. You must have seen
I think it may have dropped at some point, but yeah, it's like, completely forgot about that. I think I remember hearing something about that. Anyway. Yeah, before we move on, I would like to address some issues from yesterday, because yesterday was pretty fun hangout. The first 3/4 of it, I had a lot of room talking with the No Globe guy.
Can I? Sorry.
Yeah, after the last part, the last quarter, when Rumpus and Roof came in, I I want to address this. I kind of made a fool of myself, and yeah, and I can explain exactly what happened because I basically misread the ruler, and yeah, they were pointing this out to me, and well,
Oh,
I
I
can just say
remember.
that
Oh,
because
Arwen, no
of
big
their
deal.
annoying behavior, I just didn't really listen.
Nah, I pointed it out to you too. It's no big deal. The fact that you
Yeah,
misread the ruler. I mean,
I know.
so
It's
what?
forgivable, but I just feel kind of stupid about it, and I want to
No big
like
deal.
be the better man and actually admit that I made kind of a silly mistake. It's something Rumpus never does because he makes a lot of mistakes, but he never actually admits to them. But at the same time, I would also like to emphasize again something that he didn't mention is that we did actually measure out on a globe as well as on a flat earth what the height differences would be of those two mountains, and both yielded the exact same result. So their calculation might not work on a flat earth, doesn't work on a globe either. So there's just something else going on in that picture that's causing the difference of the height to be like that visually, and has nothing to do with the shape of the earth. So I wanted to end about that on that. So that was that.
Nate, can I ask you a favor? Could you just present my webcam?
All right.
I just want to prove something in chat. Hang on, let me just knock my headphones off. Right, am I just give me a sound check?
Yeah, you're okay.
Right, that's okay. Right, but for some reason, Buddy Boy, am I being presented now with my hands? Yeah.
Yeah, all 7 of them on each hand.
Some people in chat think that Buddy Boy is me or I am Buddy Boy. Now, hopefully, if Buddy Boy is now in chat with my hands on the screen, so you can all see that it is not me, Buddy Boy is now messaging. Okay, so can you see that Buddy Boy's just put, okay, so now how come I'm here now? Buddy Boy, can you just type something again, anything, so my hands are on the screen and you can see it's not me?
No problem.
Then,
what do you want me to type?
not you, Buddy Boy.
Yeah, you just gave me control of that sock account, didn't you? Oh, we're not supposed to mention that.
No. So Buddy Boy, just put something in chat so that everyone can see it's not me typing. There you go. He is Buddy Boy, not me. So hopefully everybody can see that that is me and I am not typing anything whatsoever. Buddy Boy is messaging on screen. Is that satisfying the burden of proof
nonsense.
when it comes to proving something?
Not at all.
Oh, you're just a moron.
No, I'm not a moron. I could have easily... That's why I said it. You could have easily asked your missus to type on a different computer on that account.
Hey, Anthony.
Hang on.
What the hell happened to your beard?
Like the seat next to me where the other computer is obviously empty. There is nothing. There's nobody there. There's only me in the room.
And she's not got a mobile device with Buddy Boy signed in on it.
Well,
Anthony, what happened to your beard?
I'm just messing with you.
Fell off in bed, mate. I woke up and it was all over the pillow. Thought I'd been attacked with a machete or something.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I almost didn't recognize you there.
I know, yeah. It knocks 10 years off me, doesn't it?
You notice how people aren't coming in at the beginning of these shows to snipe us anymore?
Well, you haven't got the link out publicly, have you?
Yeah, the link's out publicly.
Must be because I wasn't there for 2 days. They must have thought me and you had a fallout, Nath.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? Big fallout.
Massive.
There we go, Jamie. It's for the devil.
Right, so now that we've got the back door, I'll keep my eye on the back door now.
You see?
Because I mentioned it. I should have kept my mouth shut.
Right on cue.
Yeah,
So the
right
link's
on
been
cue.
out for all this time and they've not been in to try and snipe?
No, not until I mentioned it.
The show's dying, Nath. That's what it is.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Smash the super chat.
Finished my shop off last night. I was up till 3 a.m. So up until now I haven't actually plugged the shop because it just had like placeholder stuff with wrong pricing and that was all that was there. So yesterday I went through it and got about 5 different designs on there. So there's probably in excess of a couple of 100 products on there now. But check it out. I'll stick a link in. It's already there actually. It's already in the info box, but check it out.
Yeah, I was listening to snippets of the show where you were talking about whether you should put Arwen's face on one, just all dedicated to Arwen.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm still up for doing that. Hey, Jamie Wowzer, that's another bloody troll, isn't it?
Yep.
In quick succession, one after the next. We'll get rid of all of them, and then hopefully that'll
Just
be that
wait,
bit
the
out
show's
there.
not dying. They just didn't know.
Just waiting for Fireball next. He's usually in the first 2 or 3.
Nah, but the fireball only comes in when we're like actually in a discussion.
Yeah, when I'm
You
distracted.
normally
He's
get
like an
Fireball,
interrupting
no,
troll.
no.
No,
Somebody
no,
else.
yeah. The same old order as well, not usually. And
Jamie,
flatmate.
Jamie somebody or
Oh,
whatever.
thanks, Twitwit. Twitwit says he'd buy the Arwen t-shirt.
I buy the Arwen t-shirt, says Twitwit.
I'll make
Twitwit's
it.
cheap.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a special picture for it, a wizard edition.
I'm gonna leave them for a while. I mean, I might put one more on, which will be an Arwen t-shirt, but then I'll leave them for probably a month at the least, probably a couple of months, and then revise what's on there. So I'm not just gonna constantly put stuff on there. Another troll. It's whack-a-mole.
Yeah, it is whack-a-mole. Right, so
Like a troll.
Ruhif's got a P900, hasn't he?
Yeah, he showed us.
Yeah.
Cool.
I didn't realise that he was retired at 32, the lucky sod.
Good for him.
Yeah. So shout out for that one. Ooh, they lie Ohio.
The super chat.
Give the money to Riley's dog for learning to type. Well, anyway, so yeah, so he's got this P900, right? And I've challenged him to go out and face due south and show us what you see. Show us this glorious rotation point. Now, I said to him, "Oh,
Troll attack.
did we get him?
Okay, let's have a go.
He managed to get Arwen, didn't he?
Did he really?
I think so.
Oh, bastard. Let's get Arwen back on.
Yeah, he's got him. Bring him back in on Skype,
I will.
just because it's quicker and easier."
Did he get you?
Hello.
He got you. Not quick enough on the keyboard.
Distract for a moment there.
That's when they get you.
So yeah, so I've given him a challenge to go and face due south and get a rotation point. Now he's not going to be able to do it because he has to work out what's south. Now obviously for us in the north, it's relatively straightforward. You just get a compass, put it on a flat surface, and then work out where your north is. Point north, put your camera to the same position, and then zoom in a little bit, and you're going to get the Polaris. You're going to get the North Star. That's not too difficult. But it's not the same story in Australia where Ruhif is. So the task is for him to even like find it because it's supposed to be the opposite position to the North Pole, right? Because it is the rotation point on their model of the Earth spinning. So it requires on their model to be the exact opposite of the North. But he can't see the North. So he has to kind of do it by some other method. Now, obviously, it's not that difficult to get a compass, point it on, put it on a flat surface, let it point north, and then you go to the opposite position. But if he does that, he doesn't see it, right? So he has to make what they call a declination adjustment. Now, I'm surprised how little people on the Ball Earther side actually even know about this. I'll just name drop 2 that didn't know about it and admitted it, and it's not to shame them in any way, but it's just to make the point. Lottie didn't know about the declination point, and who was the other one?
No.
No, it wasn't. No.
No, he's in the hangout. He's going to snipe us.
I know, I've got him.
Oh, you got him.
Lottie and who was the other one? Who was the other one that knocks around with Lottie? Dawn. So Dawn and Lottie didn't know about this declination adjustment, but it's really prevalent in his position in Australia. Now, basically, how do you get south? What he needs to do, he needs to get the rotation point. But if we live on a ball, it requires and mandates, and there's no exceptions to this, it's got to be opposite north, right? It has to be the opposing point in the south. But if you can't see the north, how do you know which way you're pointing? Oh, you just get a compass, Riley. Yeah, get a compass, but when it's points south, you're not going to see the rotation point. You're going to miss it. That's a problem. Now, for me, that's proof that we don't live on a ball because it has to be south. But they have this thing called magnetic north and magnetic south. And this is where you have to make an adjustment based on magnetic north and magnetic south. But it's a moving target. So it's not even fixed. It's not tangible. It's not even a thing. It's just this arbitrary point based on magnetism that them ballers now base their quote south on.
Well,
but by doing
technically,
that,
it's not even magnetic. Well, proof that it's actually magnetic points. What it does point at is that there is a fluctuation, a variation in magnetic direction, and makes it even more confusing.
But the problem is, how do you then prove that what you're looking at is the polar opposite point? You can't, because you're doing it based on an arithmetic, an adjustment, a mathematical thing. In other words, conjecture, nonsense, rhetoric, curvature, refraction, all these things that we're talking about that we always have issues with.
It's almost similar to the whole angular relations thing with the heavens. It's just another one of those things. It's a magnetic directional relation.
Right. So based on whatever, be it like whether, I mean, ultimately, if he gets a compass, he has to address declination, and he has to adjust for it. Otherwise, he's not going to get, his compass is going to line up, and it's not going to point south. It's going to point north, but his south point is not going to be the same. So then the question becomes, well, how do you then prove as a baller? How do you then prove you are at the polar opposite of the north? And they can't do it. They have to deduce this south point based on an adjustment based on magnetism, right? Now, bear in mind that they don't acknowledge ley lines. They don't think ley lines exist. And bear in mind that they don't accept the ether. And bear in mind a third point, which is they don't accept that there are more than one magnetic focal point. If we look on the magnetic field strengths map of the world, we see there are 5 points where there are apparent poles.
No, Riley, you got that one wrong. It's purely magnetic strength. It's not actually, has nothing to do with the north and south direction. That was brought up before. But I do know an experiment that could definitely prove a south magnetic pole point.
Well,
but yeah, you'd actually have to go to the dead center of the South Pole with a compass, walk past the point, and then it would shoot in the other direction.
Explain to me why that was wrong.
Well, because it was a magnetic field strength. It wasn't actually pole. Yeah, the whole thing is that it contradicts the concept of a ball magnet with the North Pole and the South Pole on that ball being like a literal physical magnet with a field surrounding it. But that's like the field map with the different strength spots had only to do with the actual magnetic intensity and not with the direction, not any magnetic direction. That didn't correlate to that map. It's easily misunderstood, but
I'm not satisfied with that explanation, so let's bring it up and we'll talk about it.
But that is what that map actually correlates. That's how it was made. It doesn't. The thing is, it doesn't really make any sense with a ball magnet concept, because that's not how a typical magnet and its fields would work. And as you even said back then, that on a typical magnet, the North and the South Pole points would have the most intense magnetic activity, and that map clearly shows that that's not the case, and that there are fluctuations. But the map itself had nothing to do with the direction of the magnetics. It was only the field intensity.
So you say. So let's consider that position and let's see whether that's true or not. Nath, would you mind sharing my screen, sir?
Yeah, just give me a sec. I'll just share it with Armin. The audience has got it already.
So, on the ball Earth model, there are 2 poles. There's one at the north, one at the south, and all of the fields from the north and the south, they go from and to in these current lines, these like field lines. This is the direction of the poles. This is the fields of the poles. Do we agree at this point, Arwin?
Oh, yeah. Well, that is if it was a uniform magnet like that, like they suggest, yes. This is all theoretical, so
I know.
Of course.
Do this one-handed. Magnetic field map world. So, images. Now, if you're saying that I'm wrong with my interpretation, can you explain the difference between the way I interpreted it and what we see between these two images? We have that one that's there, and we have that one that's there. My assertion is that these are completely different and not comparable. You're saying that I've got the
Oh,
intention.
absolutely. No, that is. Look, the thing is, the actual magnetic map, the one that has been, this one, has been measured, it disproves the overall setup of the world magnetics according to the ball system. But this is just a magnetic strength indication. This is what this map shows. It's just the strength in those locations. It doesn't actually point out a direction. It's not like automatically magnetic direction correlates to the actual strength in a location. That's a misinterpretation, what you're seeing here. That was the point.
So
Still, like it still kind of disproves the whole ball magnetic system anyway, but
right.
this
So
map has nothing to do with magnetic direction, it only with the strength of it in the location.
So with regard to the magnetic position, the strength of the position, I'm going to say that the most strongest point, or the strongest point, will be one pole, and the other most important point will be the other pole. That's what my position is.
That is the logical. That would be the logical result on the ball magnetic system, and that is clearly not the case. So that is very awkward for the ball side. But yeah, this map does not correlate to the direction of the magnetics. That was a misinterpretation we both made at the beginning.
Well, so if we both agree that there's a focal point up at the top of a concentration of fields at the top, and there's a concentration of fields at the bottom, why are these lines not forming any correlation with them 2 points?
Well, because it's clearly not a ball, and it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. It's not a magnet in a ball with a uniform strength. There's clearly there's another source of what is causing the magnetics, and that would enable this type of field strength fluctuations like this, because this does not correlate with a uniform ball-like magnet at all.
Well, you say I've got this wrong, but I'm quite happy that I've got this perfectly right. I'm happy that these field intensity rays, or these field intensity lines, are totally and utterly inconsistent, and that I've not misinterpreted them. But if you think I have, that's fine. However,
the only thing you got wrong is that you believe that it indicates a direction, and it doesn't. No. It doesn't have anything to do with
I'm going to clear this right up. Hold on, both of you, stop.
Just intensity.
It's just a confusion between direction and position. So Anthony's using the word direction to mean its location physically, versus when you compare it to a ball with straight lines from top to bottom. Obviously, we don't have that, which changes the position or the origin of each magnetic field. And so I think in that regard you're in agreement, but in terms of magnetic direction, Arwen's right, but I don't think that was the point you were making anyway.
What I'm trying to say is that back to Ruhif. Ruhif has got to find south, but he hasn't got a reference point of north. So he has to deduce south based on some other method. Now, it seems the obvious way to try it is with a magnet. Now, there may well be other ways, and at this point it hasn't been discussed. We're at the point where we're talking about magnets in compasses. Now, ultimately, he has to do something with a compass to be able to, quote, deduce south. Now, when he deduces his south, it's like Rumpus's horizon. Ultimately, the yellow horizon that Rumpus drew, the deduced horizon, was based on utter nonsense. There was no science. There was no evidence to do what he did. He did it because he needed to support Al-K. Was it Al-K or Miles? One or the other. But point is, he's got to look south, and he hasn't got a way of working it out, an easy way of working it out. So he's got to get a compass to start with. He's got to put it on a flat table, and his compass is going to point up towards the north, and then he's going to point his camera towards the opposite point, south, and he ain't going to see it because of this thing called declination. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because the declination adjustment, for me, is pseudoscience. Why? Hey.
What's going on?
Hey, Philip. Good to have you.
A whole lot of interesting stuff that might now get interesting.
Jesus.
Are you up on this declination point in Australia?
What? Yeah, so the map you say is very interesting. So could you read off those numbers on the contours there? So what are those numbers doing as they go north?
25,000 up to 55,000.
Okay. And then that circle over there is what, 62,000? I think.
I see 60. Oh, it's a
60,000, yeah. So it looks like the intensity of the field is actually getting larger as you go further north. According to this chart, I'm just saying. And as you go farther south too.
Well, there's a high point south, but then it gets lower to about there, but then it starts getting higher. Yeah, I'd say it goes relatively stronger as it gets north, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to point that out because at least that's some correlation with what your interpretation of the ball would mean. I mean, it's not a perfectly spherically symmetric magnetic field, but at least it gets larger at the poles.
Well, it's not very uniform at all.
Not really.
No, of course.
It's completely asymmetrical. So
hang on, there appears to be a very strong pole here and another very strong pole here. There's a third one down here somewhere, and then it's kind of like 3 poles. So it looks like a tripole rather than a bipole.
But that's still
well, you're looking at a
that
projection.
The poles are actually at the
onto
strength points.
A plane, so it's a little bit hard to tell. I mean, I wish actually there should be like a 3D model of this on a sphere, so you could actually.
We've got this one though. This fixes everything though.
What? No, that's just a like cartoon.
No, that's
drawing
of
space.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
It's a cartoon ball.
That's
Not an
verified
accurate
photography right there. I don't know why you'd call it a cartoon. Surely, that's just how I know there's annotations.
It's a depiction.
It's your model, right? This is what you tell us that we live on.
Yeah, let me go and find an actual map that is more accurate.
I'm sure you'll find
No,
one. I know they
There's
exist.
one, and it doesn't show us 2.
Well, I see 2 circles, right?
No,
I see 3 circles. Well,
There's
one's more
one
like an
down here.
egg shape.
there's one up here. There's a third one over here, and then we have these anomalies. We'll call them anomalies. Somewhere in the middle.
Well, that's like a hole there. It's the least strong, right? It's almost a magnetic void there.
At the equator, yeah.
Yeah, but
That's
there's like
Uruguay.
No, I'm sure there's actually
surrounding
a
Uruguay,
graph
there's a
out there where it's
magnetic
actually
void.
put on a sphere, so you can rotate it and stuff. I'll have to find it for you guys.
Sure. We got an hour to go, so plenty of time.
The question.
No, I didn't actually want to talk about this very much. I just wanted to point out that it does generally get stronger as you go north and south.
This isn't really the question, though. So just so we can round this out, Philip. So the question is, how can we ascertain an accurate south if you're in Australia? That's the question.
Oh, no, I understand.
And
Apparently they have ways of
goes-
measuring it because
it
they know
goes
the
one step
declination of the
further.
thing.
It does go one step further because it also
let him
then
answer. I didn't
requires.
hear him.
Oh, come on.
What?
I didn't hear your answer because everyone talked over you.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, clearly they can determine south somehow, right? Because, well, I don't know how, but I mean, that's what magnetic declination is. It's deviation from magnetic south and polar south.
Sure, but again, let's just say for the sake of discussion that we do ascertain south. How do you then prove that it's the opposite of where north is?
I don't know. You have to look up how they actually measure magnetic declination.
Right. So that becomes a point. It's almost a pseudoscience point that we have no way of verifying the truth or the accuracy of.
Well, I mean, you're like, there are people who are really clever out there, like just because you and I can't think of it doesn't
Check it
mean that
out.
it
Straight
doesn't
to an appeal
exist.
to authority.
No, I can think of it. I can think of it. I understand how it works.
That'll satisfy me. Put the man with white coat with
you
lots of
just need
letters
a
after
rocket
his name and
scientist.
tell me how
There's
smart he
something
is, rather than any
No,
scientific
I
proof.
mean, I'm not saying you just take his word for it, but you just have to find their experimental verification of it.
Right. Okay.
Right? You go and read their paper, you scrutinize it, and you say, "Oh, is this bollocks or is this not bollocks?"
Fair enough.
So
Well,
we've got to the
could
point
you
where we've
find
now
one of those
established that
papers
he's
for us?
found
That would be
south,
nice.
right? And he's going to do it by, well, I'm going to find the rotation point in the sky, and I'm going to point out that that is the rotation point, therefore that is south. And I'm going to ask, how do you know that's the opposite of north?
Hey, Rumpus.
You're assuming that they're using the rotation point as south. They might have another way of verifying south.
Yes, God, you had to explain to you, Anthony, on Skype how they do this without a magnet.
And I asked you to
didn't
wait till we
understand,
did
you
it public.
goddamn moron.
Yeah, and I asked you to wait till we did this publicly because you were talking nonsense. So let's start from the beginning, Rumpus. Where did you hear from?
What?
The Ruhif has got to try and look due south and pick out the
Yeah,
stars.
he doesn't need a magnet. You can either use solar moon or you can use rotation of the stars around the solar, around the geographical South Pole. You can see where it is in the sky. You know where to
Rumpus,
point
So you
to.
can
I had
determine
this
the
explained
magnetic
to you, and you
south
just
with
ignored it. You're
the
a
globe of the
moron.
heavens. That's
So,
interesting.
Rumpus, what Riley is saying is that we're trying to prove that the South Pole in the sky is actually in the south. So you can't use that to prove that that's south.
No, we're trying to
Well,
prove that it's
you can
opposite
say
the north.
this is south. You know that the Earth is rotating, so you can see where the stars in the south are rotating around. So you know the direction to that. You can
But
see
they're-
some of those
they're-
stars
Hang on, how do you know that?
because you can see them rotating around it.
Right, but you don't
And-
know the direction.
You do. You, for Christ's sake, you look in the sky. You
Yeah.
see where the sky's rotating around.
Yeah.
That points to the south.
Right, but how
just
do you know
assume
it
it.
points to the south? Because
Just
that would be
assume
the
it.
opposite of north, correct?
You assume
Right.
it.
Have you not seen the pictures of the pictures from the equator where you can see the stars rotating both directions? There are places on the equator where you can see both poles.
Right,
so you can
but
see
Ruben's
where
not
it's
on the
low.
equator, is he? He's on the
Well,
south
yeah.
coast of
No,
Australia.
no, but you you can therefore show that the stars that are rotating around a point in the South Pole are opposite the ones in the North Pole. So
Yeah,
if
but
he
that's
can
no-
see,
that's no use
hold
to
on,
it
let me
when he
finish, let me
can't see
finish,
the
let me finish,
equator.
let me finish, just 10 more seconds. And because he therefore knows that the stars are rotating around the South Pole, which is opposite the North Pole,
No,
he
he
can
doesn't.
just look
No, he
and
doesn't
know
know
in
that.
the sky
He doesn't
where
know
to
that.
look
That's the
to where
point.
the
He
South Pole.
doesn't know
Equator,
that.
has
That's the
he?
point.
He
doesn't know
he
that.
can work it out from the rotation of the stars. He can see where the center
So
of
we're
the
trying to
rotation
deduce
is.
whether or not he's looking at the stars south, and you say you just look at the stars and just say that they're south because you can see the point, and that means it's south,
Right, but you
right?
can also use the sun.
So
You
let's
know,
say that he
you can
found
also use
Wasn't
the
the whole
sun, yes. You can
discussion
also use
here
solar
about
moon.
The
the
sun is
actual
independent of the
magnetic south,
stars.
which even according to globe lore is not the same as the rotation point and everything? Magnetic
The
poles
magnet's got
are
nothing
not the
to do with
same
this.
as the
You can work
so-called
out where the
rotation
south
points.
geographical pole is simply by using either the solar moon or by looking where the southern stars rotate around. It's really easy. And you have this
Right,
explained.
but my
to you,
point
and you
is,
didn't
how can you
understand.
prove it's opposite the North Pole?
Well,
Right,
you
I
see,
did
if
just
I look
now.
at, if you
Jesus
just look at,
Christ, you're not
if you look
listening.
at the sun and you measure south with respect to the sun, and then you look in that same direction at night and you see stars going around it, it seems like it's a pretty good confirmation that that is actually polar south.
Not at all. We don't know what the sun is or where it is. We've got absolutely no idea. It's not been verified. It's not been validated. We've not checked it. You've not checked it. Rumpus hasn't checked it. None of us have checked it.
I've got a photograph here.
A photograph of the
Shows
sun.
this.
Of the sun.
Photograph
Okay.
of the two
We're just
poles.
discussing how one would actually verify this. We're not
Yeah,
saying
but-
that we have evidence right
How
now.
can you have a photograph of the two poles in one
But this is-
photograph?
I mean, are we get, maybe we'll get to
I
the
can
conclusion
show
with some
you.
intellectual honesty that it's not possible to verify this, or maybe we'll go round and round in circles saying you
Well,
look
of
at the
course it's possible
stars
to
and
verify
confirm
it.
it with them, or you look
You
at the
I
sun
wanna
and
see
do it
confirm
at
with
this
that.
very moment.
Rumpus says he has a photograph of the North and the South Pole. That's very interesting that he'd actually
Of
have a
the pole
photograph of
stars,
both of
the
those in one
Polaris
The pole
and
photograph.
stars.
see-
So we're trying to
think I know what
establish
picture-
what direction the stars are in, and Rumpus, to prove this, has got a picture of the stars. Very well done, Rumpus.
I didn't hear your points. I have no idea what gibberish you were saying.
So it's literally begging the question on steroids, because you're literally saying to find out whether or not you're looking south at the stars, look at the stars, and then you can see the south point. It is begging the question on steroids.
Except for not, because you can use the sun,
And
which
as
is
I just
definitely
pointed out,
same
we
as the
don't
star.
know where the sun
Can I
is
say
or
something?
what the sun is. You just assume the distance and you assume what it is. Correct?
No.
Well, we can measure. Well, we know where north is, right? We know
Oh, right.
definitely
So
where
we
north is.
know where north is, do we now? So we're trying to figure it out.
Oh,
but
so we
you're
don't
just
know where
saying we
north
just
and
know.
south is.
So
Great.
when we look south, we can just know where north is. We don't need to figure it out at all. We just know.
As I've explained to you, when you look south, the sky rotates around a point. On the equator, you can actually see both of those rotations, both the northern rotation
Yeah, but
and
he's
the
not on
southern
the
rotation.
Yeah, your
He hasn't got a
statement is
reference point
nonsense.
from
When
the
you look
equator.
south, you see the rotation point. We're
here we
trying to
go.
establish which direction you are looking when you look at that rotation point. So to say, when you look south, you see the rotation point, is begging the question. You're assuming it is south already, Rumpus. God, don't
Right, here
get
we
it.
go. Here's the photograph. This is the photo. If you could share this, please. It should show. This is the North Pole, the Polaris.
How do you know it's
and
north?
must be exactly
How
at
do you
the
know it's
equator.
north?
To be honest, I don't see any rotation points there.
Are people
No,
seeing
this
this?
is a 360 photograph.
No, what is?
Right,
I don't
Low
see any
lines.
rotation points there, Rumpus.
Low lines.
You don't see the convergence on the sides of the image?
I see convergence, but I don't see any rotation points.
Oh, God.
No, but
Jesus
they
Christ,
should
Shamsi,
not.
you're-
That's fine. You can just deny it. That's cool.
I'm not denying it. You haven't made your
denying
point.
what?
There is
Just-
no
I've
rotation.
made my point perfectly.
Where's the
There is-
point of
This is a
rotation?
photograph. Let me explain what this is, perhaps. This is a photograph taken at the equator with a wide-angle lens, in which you can see both the point of the sky, the stars in the northern sky rotating around a point, and the stars in the southern sky rotating around a point.
No,
so
you
you've got
can't.
2 points there.
Correct,
No,
you
So
can't
you've
see
got
that.
2 points.
You don't see that at
See,
all.
hold on, let me finish. Let me finish,
cannot.
Anthony.
That's not
So
what we
you've
see.
got 2
You're telling
points. You
us
can
what
actually
we
see
see,
the
and that's
axis
not what we
of the-
see. So you're saying you can see the north and south from the from the equator, and you can see 2 rotation points. No, you can't. That is absolutely not what we see. Anthony is correct. You can't see 2 rotation points. That's not what you're showing us. You've also just said it's taken with a wide-angled lens. So there's distortion occurring, especially at distances that you claim these are at.
No. This,
No,
if
my
you look,
God, you guys
well,
are
if you
so
turn the
funny.
camera, I mean, there are other shots as well. As you turn the camera and take time lapses as well, you'll see you'll see the rotation point more clearly. But this is obviously one photograph to try and get it all in the same shot.
How does
But
this
if you were to
prove
But
move
if
the
you do
camera
it
left
in-
and right,
And then you can do this
Just
at any
proves
point on the
it only
equator, and it will
proves the
look
north and
exactly the
south
same.
pole points of the globe of the heavens. That's all it really proves.
it does prove what?
It's still not. It
By the
doesn't
way,
still prove
by the way,
any
I've got to
magnetic
congratulate you,
north
Arwen.
or south
Well
point.
done for correcting Anthony
So-
about the polar, the fact that that map was showing you just the intensity and had nothing to do with direction. And you were actually completely right. It's the first time I've ever heard you say
No, it's
anything
not
that's
the
correct.
first
Can I
time,
clear
but
the record
that's
up there? I disagreed with him and showed the reasons.
Yeah, I
for
know, and
why.
you're wrong. Anyway, let's concentrate on this at the moment.
Well, we'll come back to that with you, Rumpus.
Yeah, right. So what the
Where's
so
these
what's the-
rotation points? Can you show us these rotation points with your mouse?
Right, so there is the rotation point around this point here, and that one there. But obviously, this is one
No,
shot. So
no. Well, all it seems there, it looks like we're seeing divergence and convergence depending on whereabouts in the picture you're looking.
right, but this is one shot of many photographs. So you can turn the camera gradually to face exactly the rotation point, then you would see the stars
Cool.
going around essentially.
Cool,
It's
let's
obviously
see
just
it.
trying to demonstrate it in one shot, getting both. But you can rotate the camera around to one, and then rotate the camera around to the other, and you
Cool.
can see they're opposed, and that gives you
Yes.
your north-south geographical rotation. That
No,
means
not
that's how you can
geographical.
then
Hold
Only
on. This is
Hold on,
gonna
let
be
me
cool.
finish.
I want to see it
heavens.
From
happen.
that, you then know exactly where south is, you know exactly where north is, and you know they're opposite one another.
So you
Right,
can
from the
show
equator,
us.
let's just give you the sake, for the sake of discussion, let's
Hold on,
say
he's just
from
said
the
it can
equator
do
you can
something,
deduce that.
Anthony.
Okay?
Hold on a
I'm-
second. Hold on. He said it can move and show you the different rotation points, right? So let's see it do it.
Oh, well,
I've seen footage of that, just with a
Yeah,
camera moving.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah,
This
well,
is
let's see
this
it
is
do
right. This is
Hold on, this is
This
a new
is them
screenshot.
rotating it
hold
to
on,
various
hold on.
angles.
I thought you said you can move the camera view. We've just moved on to
no,
a
no, it
different
doesn't.
picture.
It's not
It's
live
still
thing. No, but
photos,
they
not
can.
videos.
Someone. This is what someone has done and taken other pictures, showing you the rotation points and looking in different directions. You can't do it live now,
Right,
but
so
they
let's-
can. Anybody on the equator can do this.
Let's say, for the sake of discussion, that
You've
you
not
can
got an
do that
example
on
where
the
they have
equator.
done it. Can you not show me an example rather than screenshots?
There should be footage out there on YouTube.
There
I've
is
seen
there
it.
is some footage here. I think virtual nighttime. Look, let's have a look at what that is.
They don't
Thanks.
look very spherical, them, to be honest, Rumpus.
I just want to see
No,
a
not like
transition.
that,
If you can do it, I know they've obviously composited together a whole bunch of images from all different angles, and that's the end result. I understand the process, but it'd just be nice to actually see it. I've not seen it. Cool, great. Let's see it.
I
happen.
have, like 2 years ago even.
Sure,
There was
but I
among
haven't,
the
and I'd like
YouTubers,
to.
it was great
You know,
footage.
there's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure it exists. I'm not denying that, but I'd just like to see it. You've got a
I'll
3D
look
stitched
for it.
image from the equator. That's something I've not seen. Wonderful. Let's see it.
Yeah, and it's showing in a film here. Where they're gradually rotating round.
Yeah, I can see a rotation there,
I
Rumpus.
can't see any rotation point either, but let's just go back to
Okay,
that
if you're not
3D.
going to, if you're going to start doing this sort of stupid comments, we've got the stills. They're showing you different directions.
Hold on.
You haven't got
And
stills. Can we just
stills.
let the record straight? There is no rotation point in anything you've shown so far.
There is. What do you think? What do you think that is? What
That
do you
looks
think
like
that
a
is,
set of
you idiot?
spectacles.
Semicircle.
He's taken it's a time lapse
Oh
picture
my
of the sky.
god!
You
It's
moron.
because it's going below the horizon.
Right.
It's going
My
literally
God.
below the horizon.
Right.
It's a
I'm-
time lapse
discussion.
photograph of the sky. You utter moron. Of course, it's
Hold
got a
on.
rotation.
You're telling
point.
us there's
discussion, we
rotation
can
points.
move on.
Jesus
Right?
Christ!
But there's nothing
Let's move
rotating.
on.
That's a semicircle, right? So
Yeah, it's
that's
a
bend.
time
No, but
lapse
it's semicircle.
photograph
Is
of the
semicircle
It's not
sky.
a roundabout.
circle?
That would be one bend
My
on a racetrack,
God.
right? It's not a roundabout, is it? So you're saying we're
Unbelievable.
morons. 'cause
This
you're
is
saying
exactly
there's no
what
Well,
you'd
rotation.
Nathan,
expect
but
to
it
see in
would
a
make
sphere at
sense.
the
It
equator.
kind of does
You'd
mostly
see half of
that,
a circle.
although
Christ, these
we'd have
morons.
to have some
Stop,
real
stop.
That's
moving
This is
video
insane.
proof
You
of
guys
that.
are literally
even-
Stop speaking
insane.
over each other. Stop.
On the equator, the North and South Pole star points, or whatever they are, they should be slightly below the visual horizon because of refraction displacing everything in the distance slightly downward. So that is what you would see. It doesn't prove any physical, geometrical north or south, though, although
course
the
it
globe
does.
of the heavens does relate to the location on the Earth, angular-wise.
Turn the camera around
But it still
180
doesn't
degrees, you get
prove
exactly
any
the same thing. The
magnetic
opposite
north
direction,
or
the same
south
set, different set of stars.
Nathan, can you share my
It's
screen?
absolutely
It still doesn't
100%
prove any
concrete proof
magnetic
of the
north or
north-south
south
axis.
Hey, no globe. Can you say hello?
Oh, that's
And
not
of
I mean,
course,
this is insane because you can do this at any point on the equator and you'll see the exact same thing. You rotate 180 degrees,
Yeah, that's the
you'll see the exact same
That's the
thing.
insertion. We only know that that may happen once. We haven't seen it in multiple places on the equator. But secondly,
Oh, that's
Nathan, can
really?
you share my screen?
I have.
Rumpus, can you explain to me then if we have two rotation points in the sky because of the stars rotating around in different
hold
directions?
on, let me just get to the right screen.
Just click on his face
Right.
locally. Got him, Rumpus?
Yeah, come here. Yeah.
How is this consistent with what you've just demonstrated? Because we have
How's what
appears to be
consistent?
a magnetic pole down here. We
All
have
right,
one here.
we're going into magnetic. We stopped talking about the geographical north and south pole. We're now talking about magnetics.
Well, yeah,
Sorry.
you're saying that it's the geographical one. But what I'm
Yeah,
asking
so
is we
it's
only
got
have two
nothing- so it's got
poles.
nothing to do with magnetism. What I've just been showing you has got nothing to do with magnetism. If you want to change
Yeah,
the
then
subject,
why did you
okay,
bring it
fine,
up,
but we
Rumpus?
need to accept that's
Why?
what's happened.
Because we were talking about the magnetics. That was my whole
Yeah, we're
point.
trying
Why
to
would you bring
establish
up the
north
globe
and
of the
south.
heavens again
No.
when we're
No,
actually
It's
figuring
fine to
out
bring
the
it up,
south and
Arwin.
north magnetic
Arwin.
poles?
He's fine to bring it up. He's saying this is how you'd reference south. You'd beg the question.
No, you
and
don't.
Just,
No, you do
just
not
assume that you're looking south because you're looking at something that he says is south, which is the south celestial rotation point. So you look at it and say, there you go, there's south, because we know that's south.
You don't
Well,
do
it's
it
the
with
south
magnetism.
direction,
Brilliant will
at
not
least.
do it
That
with
is probably
magnetism.
true.
No, you just
Well,
look at the
we have
south.
two
That's what I
poles,
just said,
Rumpus.
Rumpus. You just look at the south rotation point and go, there you go, there's south, right? Then you
Yeah,
know.
so he can do it. He can
Right.
deduce. He can deduce that.
You know it's south because
can
you look
deduce
at
that
it and say
from
there's
the stone
south right
moon
there. Look,
Or looking at the stars.
don't
what's
need a
the problem?
It
compass.
would be kind of nice to
Very,
be
very easy.
on the
Well,
equator
the problem is,
Look at the
Rumpus,
sky.
you have evidence that's not consistent
see
with your
if the
interpretation.
magnetics
What are you
do
talking
line
about?
up
What's not
with those
consistent?
points.
Right.
That would
The
be
claim
The
is-
easy.
magnetism has got nothing to do with the rotation and axis of the
I
Earth.
know,
it does.
Rumpus.
This
You
is
don't have to tell me. I'm
irrelevant.
just
Utterly
saying
irrelevant.
that would
It's
be
not irrelevant,
interesting
Rumpus.
to
It's completely
see.
irrelevant.
Utterly irrelevant. This is, doesn't it? I mean, it's
Oh, it is
the
relevant. Of course it
magnetic
is
poles
relevant.
are sort of close to the geographical ones. It's nothing to do with the argument what Ruhiv's got to do.
Right. Rumpus.
Nothing at all.
Do we agree that
Absolutely nothing.
do we agree that there are two poles?
There are two geographical poles, and there is a magnetic and north and south pole as well. Yes.
Right. And they're both consistent with each other all the time.
No,
Every
they're
year-
not consistent.
They
You've had
are.
this explained to you about 20
No,
times.
they're not.
They are not.
No one ever
They-
claims they are.
No.
They flip round.
No
you
one ever
moron.
claims they
They
are.
don't
What's
even
this
stay
on
in the same
screen?
place.
Sorry, according
How
to
many
what's on
times do you have to-
screen. Sorry, you just said no one claims they are. According to what's on screen now, this looks like it's from a NASA website, and it looks absolutely consistent.
Yeah.
So
This
what was
is
the
a
question? Was there a
cartoon
question
drawing supposed to teach people generally about how the magnetic field of the Earth looks like.
So when you said
Right.
no
Not
one
an
claims that they,
accurate
so when you
representation.
said, Philip, no one claims they do, what you actually meant to say was NASA absolutely claims they do to teach children.
Yeah. Right. Let's get.
I
back
just
down
want to
to
get a
what's the
concession
question?
from Philip. Sorry, when you said no one claims to, what you actually meant was NASA claims to teach children nonsense, correct?
Teach children nonsense. Well,
Sorry,
I mean,
is this
generally
not correct?
speaking, this
Is
is what
this
it looks
correct
like. But
or
if you
not?
want to make it, oh, hey, Sean.
Is this correct? Is what's on screen correct or not?
I can address that.
I'm asking
The
Philip.
picture that Sleeping Warrior is actually
Hold
showing
on a second, Sean.
show-
Hold on.
was a magnetic
Hold on a
pole
second,
and a geographic
Sean.
North Pole, and they are
Hold on,
separate from each
Sean.
other.
Hold on. So, Philip, when you claimed no one claims that they are consistent, do you now retract that? Because we have a NASA website on screen that shows them consistent.
Hey, what is the title
They're
of
not
that?
consistent.
And
They're
look
What
at
is
the
it?
picture,
Children.
Nathan. You're missing the
They're
major print on the
different.
picture there, Nathan.
Yeah, yeah.
Look at
What
the
does that
picture,
say?
they're
What does the
different.
title say? What does the title say?
It's
Representation.
Yeah, it
Oh,
shows
okay.
two
You're
different
also looking at your
positions. Can't you
picture.
Is it
see?
accurate?
What does
Can't
that
you see
blue
that the
text say
geographic
right
North
below
Pole
the
and magnetic
magnetic
North Pole are
field?
different?
So it's
There's
not
two lines
accurate.
there, Nathan.
And it's
There are
an
it's
two
not
lines. Look at the two
representation.
lines.
who cares? Who cares?
They're
Nathan just
different
made the
poles.
assertion that NASA is saying that they're the same thing. This picture by NASA is saying they are not.
Who cares about the location of the geographic over the magnetic? The point
Because
is-
Nathan just made the
You
assertion
do.
that NASA says that they
No
say
one
the same.
cares. It's not the point. The point
They're
I'm making,
different.
there appears to be at least three.
There are two lines there. One
One.
line is for the
Two.
north-south geographical axis, and
Three.
the other one is for the magnetic axis. They're different.
Why is
there's
What's
there
not
the
three
problem?
poles there.
three
What are you talking
rotation
about?
points?
No.
No,
Daddy,
no.
come
Those
on.
two
It's
big
magnetic
circles,
intensity.
the
It's
littlest
not
circles on the
magnetic
top and the
direction.
bottom, those are the poles.
Yeah, the ones on the equator, they're dips. You don't understand the contour. You don't understand how to read a contour map, do you, now, Anthony? Jesus Christ!
Right. How many?
How
So-
stupid can you be?
let's
How
put it simple.
stupid can you be?
How many
you're gonna stick
how many
by
poles are
or
there,
saying the same
Rumpus?
thing?
Right, there
Are
are
you
four
going to
poles.
stick with that, Nathan?
There
Come
are
on.
four poles there:
Two.
north and south geographic, north and south magnetic.
How many is there on this one, Rumpus?
That
No,
is
it's
not
just
correct.
field
As Arwin,
intensities.
as
Two.
Arwin correctly pointed out,
Three.
as Arwin correctly
No,
pointed
You're
out
wrong,
to you,
Anthony.
they're
You
not
don't know how to read that
directions.
graph.
They're intensities. It's got nothing to do with the direction.
So
They're
why is it very
intensities.
intense in three locations, Rumpus?
Because
It's
one is
not
dip.
because you're not reading the graph properly. You see
Yeah,
that
you
contour
idiot.
line for 5,000? When it
Yeah.
hits the top, it comes out on the other side.
Right, but we have one focal point here,
And
That's
one
60,000.
focal point there.
And one
and
that's
we have one
60,000.
there.
And that's
No.
the continuation of the 50,000 coming around from the other side.
Yes.
Exactly.
Say that
And
again.
that third spot at the equator is at 25,000. It's a lull in the magnetic field.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're saying that there's not one here and there's not one there. They're actually one and the same. Is that your position?
No, go to the line outside of the 60,000 on the north.
Outside of the 60,000 on the north. So you mean 55?
The 55. Look where it
Yeah.
continues across North America.
So you're saying that? So that, show it.
That's the 55,000 that's outside of the 60,000.
Right.
Yeah,
but
but
we have.
join-
Why is there?
Join that other 50,000 line.
I don't see why is that point relevant? That's not relevant to the focal point being there and the focal point being there.
There's not a focal point.
Yeah, it
there.
is. That
It
is
clearly
strange.
You
is,
notice
but
that the
it's
one
an-
over North
it's
America
not
does not have a
indication of the
60 plus
magnetic
thousand
direction.
mark on it
Sure.
because that's not a focal point.
Well, what is it then?
It's an intensity point,
Oh.
Anthony.
I'm going to do a very quick link as we've got approximately 1 hour left on this live stream. I hope you're enjoying the debate thus far. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it's live, and a link in the info box below the video once it is rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you're currently watching, then click the link in the info box to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. There is a little under 1 hour left on this live stream.
Chaotic. It's a liquid that's moving around, sloshing around, if you like, in a chaotic manner. So you're going to get these odd, peculiar variations in the intensity by the time the field reaches the North Pole.
There's literally no point in going through this.
I remember you couldn't prove that point before, so ultimately you're now expecting us to accept that point.
Paul Voigt. You're getting me confused with Paul Voigt. I have not made this point to you ever before.
Paul Voigt and who else was it that said the same thing?
Yeah,
Geo Strieber's done it. So
Yeah.
are you saying that Geo Strieber and Paul Voigt are not correct?
No, they are correct.
Right, but we couldn't prove it because there was no evidence from either of them about the core of the Earth.
We've got all sorts of seismic studies that show what's at the core of the Earth.
Not
Yeah, we
scientifically
know what
validated.
seismology predicted
They
with the
didn't follow
borehole.
scientific
We got it
method,
wrong,
did
didn't
they?
he?
I checked out
But the borehole
one
only
you
goes
said,
down
Rumpus.
8 miles or something.
Total fail.
Yeah, and
We went through it.
seismology made predictions that turned out to be false, didn't they, Rumpus? They said that the density is not
So
increasing.
now we're assuming the Earth's crust is uniformly dense.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
It's not
interesting.
uniform.
There can't be
You look at the-
variations in the Earth's crust that might not
Exactly.
match exactly what the predictions say. Oh, I guess the Earth is not
Yeah,
a
but
perfectly
generally the
uniform
density
sphere.
wouldn't be expected to decrease, would it, of the rock?
Oh, it
Oh,
does.
sure it
You know,
can.
the density of the Earth is rather odd, actually.
So it was an
doesn't
anomaly.
change-
Another
Hold
anomaly.
on, let me explain. Well, they only
Sure.
discovered this experimentally. They discovered this experimentally by probing it with various fields, waves or something from earthquakes and things. You can detect the density, and they found, oddly enough, as you would think the density would be uniformly increasing as it goes down, but it doesn't. The density actually remains just about the same, I think, for the first third of the depth of the Earth, and then suddenly it starts to increase. This is something we didn't know until we measured the seismographs and things, and we could work out the density of the. You can work out from the waves that you get from earthquakes. You can work out the density of the material they're passing.
Not to mention, just to add on to this, the waves are exactly what you'd expect to see on a spherical Earth. There's the geometry of the Earth.
What are you talking about, man? Right, let's stay on one topic. I could go on to the Cola Deep Super
They're a bit
Bowl.
more chaotic, aren't they, Philip? Surely there's more chaotic than you would expect.
It's called. You know what normal modes are, right? It's the normal modes.
No, I've heard of them, but explain.
So normal modes are like the natural frequencies that different bodies vibrate at. So, for example, a string has a set of normal modes, which are the harmonics of a string.
Right.
And you can generalize this to two-dimensional and three-dimensional objects. And the normal modes are uniquely identifying the actual geometry of the object. And so we see natural frequencies resonating from seismographic activity, which exactly match that of spherical Earth. We would not see those frequencies on any other shape.
Right, but I think what Nancy was referring to was the chaotic nature of the density graph that he was looking at. I don't think we could have predicted that, though, surely.
The chaotic density of the magnetic field.
The picture was showing earlier of the intensity of the magnetic
field.
Yeah.
No, but I'm talking about waves propagating through the Earth.
Exactly. Yes, so I'll just make that clear. I thought you were talking about the intensity.
No. I'm talking about when you excite an elastic body, it has normal mode frequencies that get excited.
Yes, so we can therefore predict the density and of various things inside the Earth. Yeah, great. Yeah.
And it's determined by the symmetry of the object.
How does the density of the Earth relate to the magnetic intensity? Because as far as I know, magnetics pretty much go through rock. Just like that. It's not really directly influenced by it. So that doesn't explain it to me.
Doesn't explain
there's a variation in the intensity.
Well, it's all based around a rotating liquid core that's chaotic. So it's a chaotic system like that. It's like saying looking at it's like looking at water going down your plug hole and then saying what shape is that? And it's moving all the time, it's changing, it's chaotic. You're not going to get a uniform, lovely sort of density graph that I think Anthony thinks he'd like to see in his picture, when in fact he's got much more of a chaotic system going on, although it's got higher density of the poles and it's got those dips on the
to call it a non-conforming or non-supportive system.
Sorry?
Hey, part-time vegan, is that you?
Oh, part-time, wow.
Hello? Can you say hello? Bye-bye.
Oh, I guess he was...
Wow. Might be the troll. I've kicked him anyway. You need to say hello. If you are real, just say hello immediately. Interrupt people. I won't mind.
Now, mind you, Nathan, this is the first time I was on the show, and I've actually knew to say hello as soon as I came in. Just saying.
Hello, Sean. Good to have you here.
Hi, Nathan.
Sorry,
but while I know that you're actually able to speak, would you address the fact that if Annie could bring that picture back up again of the globe magnetic poles? You made the claim that NASA is claiming that the geographic and the magnetic north poles are the same. But in this picture that Anthony is showing...
No, that's not what I claimed.
Clearly said,
no, that's not what I claimed. So I claimed that they were showing it as a uniform dispersion, which is what what was being debated about at the time, Sean. So yeah,
same
Hi,
you
Joe.
said NASA
How you
does.
doing?
And this is from NASA, and it's showing 2 different poles.
Did he speak then? Have I kicked him accidentally?
I've kicked him anyway because I didn't hear him. Sorry. So no, that's not what I said. I wasn't saying anything in reference to the geographical and magnetic poles. It seems you've misrepresented.
So I can
my
use that in a
argument.
soundbite then.
You just misrepresented my
And I
argument,
didn't say
that's
that
all.
either.
I'll
I said
be
that
sure
I
to
actually
sound bite.
expressly said I don't care where they are. My point is there are only 2 of them. That's the point I'm trying to get home, and it isn't getting home.
The magnetic and geographic north poles and south poles. There's actually a very simple experiment you can use to actually determine where geographic north and south actually are.
Who cares where they are?
You do.
I'm
You're the one saying it
magnetic
can't be
north
done
and
except with
south
magnetics.
right
And
now.
No.
there's a way to do it
At this
without
point,
magnetics.
I'm only trying to establish how many poles there are, not where they are.
Your initial
Magnetic
question was all
poles.
about how to find the geographical South Pole. You've now moved on to the subject of the magnetic poles.
No,
That's a separate subject.
Right, because Ruhif has to make an adjustment for declination.
No, he doesn't. 'Cause
Actually, he
he doesn't
doesn't.
use them. He doesn't
he
have
does.
to use the
There is
magnetic
a way.
south at
There is
all.
a. Hold on, Rumpus.
He
There is a
doesn't
way
have to use.
Rumpus.
He doesn't have to use a compass.
Rumpus.
Or,
He doesn't have to use the magnetic south. He can just look at the south rotation point and beg the question and just say, there you go. Some guy has told me that's south, so therefore I am now looking south. No need for
He can
magnetism at all.
determine it himself from the sky.
There is a way to determine this without using a magnetic compass at all.
Exactly.
look
That's
at
what,
the south
that's what
rotation
Anthony
point.
doesn't understand. He keeps on saying you have to use a compass. You don't.
No, you don't. You can just beg the question. You can just look at the south rotation point and say, there you go. I'm looking south. Happy days. I've figured it out because I've just looked south. So now I can start figuring out whether or not it's south. Right, Rumpus? You know what I mean?
If
To
you
reply
think
to
those
that
pictures
with
of the
the
Hang
sky
on, let's
rotation
not lose
don't
track.
sound
and
good.
The
the
point we're trying to make
rotation
is proving
Well,
that
the
it's
only
the
thing is-
opposite of the North Pole.
And
Who
I
cares
know there's a
where
way
south
to do
is?
that. There is a way to do
opposite
that
the
without
north.
using a compass at all.
Right. Who cares what method you use? What I'm interested in is how
You
you're
were the one asking how
opposite.
he would do that without modifying for declination. There's a way to do
Yeah.
it without a compass.
Right, but I don't
So
care
I'm
what
trying to
method.
directly answer the
What I'm
question you
interested in
started
is
this
how
whole
you're gonna
conversation
prove
on.
that it's the opposite point to
Let
north.
him answer it, Anthony.
And
I
I'm trying
showed you
to-
the pictures from the
Anthony.
equator.
That's what
and
Sean
he
is trying
posted
to
Hold on,
pictures from
you're
the
just
equator.
calm.
He's not
Anthony.
wanting to
Hold
use
on,
the
hold
equator.
on.
Use the equator.
Hold
It's
on.
fine.
Sean says he's got
Just
an
let Sean
answer.
address them.
Can you just let Sean give his answer? He said he's got a very direct answer to that very specific
And
question.
it's
I'd
something
like
you
to
can
hear it.
do anywhere in the world. All you have to do is wait for solar noon. And the way you determine solar noon is because it is equal distances from east and west. So no matter where you're on the Earth, if you're in the northern hemisphere, it's going to be due south of you, geographically speaking.
Nonsense.
If you're in the southern hemisphere, it will be due north of you,
But no idea what
geographically
the sun
speaking.
is. No idea.
All
what
you
it
have to
is,
do
where it
is
is,
when
how
you-
far it is. You don't know where it represents
It
itself.
doesn't matter how far
in
away it is. It is
comparison.
equal distance from east and west. It is at the
Or
apex
actually,
in the
Sean-
sky.
You don't know.
Sean,
That.
you can also do it just by saying the highest point the sun reaches actually in your sky. You don't
That's
need to
why
worry
I said
about halfway.
apex.
No
That's
idea what
still
Oh,
it
did
is.
he say
all
apex?
global
Sorry,
heavens
sorry, Sean. Okay,
related.
great. Apex. Yes,
Only thing
exactly
it
right. The
proves
apex.
is
Now, when
there
you
is
get
a
when you have the
focal
sun at solar noon, you place 2 landmarks in a direct line from you towards the sun. And then if you want to determine where north is, you just walk to the furthest landmark and look at the first landmark or the northern landmark that you have. You have geographic north at that point. Works the same way in the south. No magnets involved.
Yeah,
No
you're assuming
compasses
you're on a
involved.
sphere.
And the pictures I
Begging the question again. So this is all you guys ever seem to do is beg the question. So you assume everything. You assume you know where the
No.
sun is. You assume you're on a globe automatically. You assume it all.
No.
Yeah,
It
you do.
has nothing to do with the globe. It's just looking where the sun is when
Yeah,
it's
it is.
equal distance from east and west. So
Absolutely.
it's at
You're
the
trying to reference
apex
where the
of-
north point on that sphere is. So you're automatically assuming you're on the sphere.
No.
Right?
No, it has nothing to do with the sphere. This works
It
on a
works
flat
on a
Earth.
flat
too.
Earth model too.
Right.
The only thing
It works
the
on all the
globe
flat
of
Earth models
heavens
if they were
proves
true.
is there is a
If the sun is
focal
the
point
apex of the
on
sky,
north
it is always
and a
either
focal
north or
Any
point
south
on
difference
the
to
south.
me
It
whether
doesn't
a
prove
globe
it's
is
an
on a flat
actual
Earth model
physical
or a
point.
globe model. It means nothing. You don't know anything
Well,
about
you
the
know,
things that
see,
you're
this
referencing.
is the thing, Nathan. If it works, and that north and south corresponds to where the polar rotation points are, then that's basically proof of the sphere right
not.
there.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Absolutely
It is.
not.
Yeah, of course it is.
Absolutely.
It
Oh,
matches
really?
exactly
Okay,
what the sphere
fine.
would produce.
We can assume it all and then make that conclusion. if
That
you
one
want to.
picture, that I showed you is proof of the spherical Earth.
No,
the
it's
fact
not.
that the
It's just a
equator, you can
picture.
see
It's
the
not.
two
How many
rotations.
times are we going to go through this? It's
Whereas
just a picture.
on the flat
No,
Earth,
Rumpus,
rotation
that doesn't
around
prove
the
it.
polar.
No, it
Sorry?
doesn't.
That doesn't prove it. You have to
Well, it
prove
does.
that those are north and south.
Oh yeah, but hold up. But Philip, surely if on a flat Earth, the axis of rotation of the stars is from a point at the North Pole upwards, if you look at their flat Earth model,
yeah, but they can always say that they just cherry pick the location where the 2 points are exactly 180 degrees apart.
But they're never. Hold on, you don't get something looking south. You can't do it on a. You cannot get that picture on a flat Earth.
What Riley believes is that there's 2 dinner plates in the sky which are rotating.
Yeah, but they're rotating above you. You
other.
can't look at the point of rotation. No, you on the spherical Earth. When you look at the center of rotation, you can see it rotate around you. Whereas what you would see if you're on a flat Earth, you would see it rotate as an ellipse coming towards you and then going away from you. And so you get
unless you're at the exact point in between the 2 disks, in which case it would look. It would look because then the stars they wouldn't be going in a circle, would they, Philip? They're at an angle to you. His 2 things are rotating. I guess you're right. There'd be a parallax. Unless they're like infinitely far away.
If you could move,
they would still crop. They wouldn't go around in a circle. They'd go around in an ellipse.
And you would move on a measurable straight line. You have no proof that those
they wouldn't
points
go around
would
in a
actually
circle,
then
you cannot get the same effect.
Move from their place. You don't have any proof of that. So they could just be focal points. The northern pole star and the southern pole rotation point could be focal points. There's no proof that they literally are the north and south.
You don't understand the axis of
rotation.
rotation. For on a flat Earth, the axis of rotation is vertically up from the flat Earth, which means that the stars are rotating round the sort of the disk of the flat Earth, and that means then when you look south, you will not see them as going round in a circle.
Nonsense. I don't have a model.
No, you don't understand the geometry. Okay, I could draw a diagram if you like to show you how this is done.
Where is this flat Earth model?
There isn't one. That's kind of a problem.
I agree. There isn't one.
Well, any flat Earth model would have the stars rotating around the North Pole.
No, my flat Earth model would not have that.
Right?
Rectangular looping would completely cut the direct physicality of these stars and all of the globe of the heavens from being literal. They're just focal points.
Don't even need to bother to answer that. Just gibberish.
It's just a different approach.
If we want to just go and just ignore the celestial bodies, that's fine. We'll pick out
the whole geometry.
No, but there's still interesting things to figure out. If you bother to put the 2 things rotating that Anthony's claiming in a geometry, if you got Chris Monk to go and create a model of 2 rotating sets of stars around the edges of the flat Earth, you would see they do not rotate as a circle around your field of view, whereas they would do on a spherical Earth.
Yeah,
Proof
we're
of
not
a spherical
asserting
Earth
that that's how it works. You're asserting that for us and saying that's how it would have to be on a flat Earth model. I've seen various flat Earth models of the stars, and they don't work in that way. They work in various different ways. So you can't just assert that that's how we should model it.
And both ways are subject to refraction, and we know that refraction changes the way.
Anthony, have you got your dual rotating picture with the 2 things counter rotating, whatever it is, at each end of the flat Earth, which you use to try and claim, or how you can account for the counter rotation of the sky? We can point to that. There we go. Right. Now, imagine for instance, you are at the South Pole in this.
Oh, actually, wait, I have a really neat demo that kind of demonstrates this.
Okay.
Let me see.
Well, while you're getting it, I'll describe it verbally. You can see there that the stars, you would actually be looking at the South Pole, you would see one set of stars rotating one way and another set going in the opposite direction from the South Pole. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, but
that's
because you would be looking north when you stood at the south. All the stars rise in the east and set in the west.
Right, hold on. Now, these rotating counter directions, don't they? You're going to claim this one at the top is rotating one way, clockwise or whatever, and the one about is anti-clockwise. Is that correct?
All the
stars
rotating so that they're set in the west.
Hold on, I want to see what. Hold on, Anthony. Are these 2 sets of concentric circles? Are they rotating in opposite directions or not?
Yes, they're
the same direction, aren't they?
Right. So imagine you were sitting at the South Pole. You would be looking forward, and one set of stars would be rotating one way, and another set of stars would be rotating in the counter direction. Not what happens.
Now I have a very interesting experiment.
Oh my God!
It's
such a simple invalidation of what you've got here. You don't understand. Try that again.
If you go slightly
You can do as a
slightly
clock here.
north from the
There's
south
one set on the South Pole
point,
rotating
and you move in a
clockwise,
straight
and the
line
set going north
across
is
the
setting
Antarctic.
going anti-clockwise.
Would
So if
the
you're a viewer
rotation
at the
point
South
then
Pole,
move?
you would see
Would
one
you
set
move
of
away
stars
from the
going
rotation point,
clockwise,
or
and
would
you
it
would see
move
another
with
set of
you
stars
as you
going
walk?
anti-clockwise.
As you
No,
walk
In the
Rumpus.
on a
long
straight line
time,
Darwin and
that
Rumpus
doesn't
talking
happen.
over each other.
How is this any different to the one where you showed at the equator?
Because you're at the equator and you're looking, but not this one would not work if you're at the South Pole.
But if
Whereas
you-
on the spherical
Well,
Earth,
I
it
can
works
actually address
everywhere.
that.
Saying all the stars rise in the east and set in the west.
Yeah, you're ignoring my
I
point
can-
that I
I can
just
actually
made.
address a
Anthony.
simpler
You
point
would,
on
on
that.
this
You're,
model,
you're contrasting the point, and I'm
No.
comparing it. It's the
Anthony,
same.
on this model, you would have set stars rotating in different directions from
No,
looking from the
Rumpus.
South Pole.
All the stars rise
Oh
one
my
side
God.
and set on the other side. Do you understand that?
Let me ask this. Anthony, on that model you're presenting, where exactly is due north from, on your drawing, let's say from California?
California's west side or east side?
It's the west side.
West side. Okay, so where's due north?
Where's due north?
Up.
Okay, so why isn't your celestial North Pole due north of that?
Because it's a celestial point. It's not the actual point north, is it?
This is just a
But
description of
The point of this
how
picture
it
is
looks
to show.
What
like.
the hell?
The point of this picture is to show that when Rumpus
moves
claims that on
with
the
you.
equator
It moves
you can
with you.
prove that there was a
Globe of
spherical
heavens
Earth,
moves with
this
you.
is the exact same observation on a
But it
flat
doesn't
plane.
work for any other position, though, does it, Anthony?
Yes,
no other
yes,
position
it
works.
does.
No, it doesn't.
with
You didn't
you.
listen to anything I said. If you're at the North Pole or the South Pole or anywhere not on the equator, you would see two sets of stars rotating in different directions around your point.
No,
Right.
not in different
Look,
directions.
Anthony, imagine
No,
yourself at
not
the
in
South
different
Pole.
directions,
Hold on,
Rob.
Anthony.
Listen.
Try this.
Listen, let me try it again for a fourth time. All
Anthony, yeah, but-
stars rise in the east,
Yeah,
and they
but hold on,
all
you're
set
raising
in
a
the
different.
west.
Yeah, but hold on, you're raising a different point. Imagine you're at the South Pole. Try and imagine you're at that point where it says South. Now
Okay.
imagine you're looking north,
Yeah.
and imagine looking at the stars. You will see
okay.
one
It
set
was.
of stars would be rotating
was.
to the right,
Hear us?
and the other set of stars would be rotating the other way,
Hello.
and you'd be seeing
Hello.
two sets of stars.
You can't see
Rotate
that far,
different ways.
Rumpus. You can only
You-
see 30, 50, 60 miles or so. You
No,
can't see
yeah,
the
but
whole length of the Earth.
You can. Yeah, okay. Well, imagine you're at the midpoint. Say at the midpoint
Oh,
up in
okay.
South
Hold
America.
on, Rumpus, let me address what he just said. You can only see
Yeah.
30, 50, 60 miles. How far away is the sun when it sets?
Well, on your model, 93 million
No
miles.
idea.
Well, on
don't
your
care.
model, you made the assertion we can't see more than 30, 40, 50, 60 miles. How
You're an
far
idiot.
away is the sun when it sets?
Who knows? We have no idea.
We know
It's
how
at the edge of
Sorry,
vision.
who's asserted
It's
that we
all
can only
part of
see
the globe
60
of the
miles?
heavens, and it moves
That would
Sorry.
be
with
that
you.
would be Anthony that just asserted that.
Yeah, the point I'm making is you can't see the whole length of the planet. So Rumpus is trying to say that you would see all the stars rotating twice. You wouldn't.
Okay, then. So if you gradually, you're saying then gradually as you moved along that path from the South to North Pole, the things would rotate in different. As you got to somewhere South Africa, and you could see. I mean, you can see on the equator. You can see both sets of stars. So you can't deny we can't see
You're not
more
getting
visitors here.
The bit that you're not getting is all the stars will rise east and set west, and this is consistent. You're
And what
trying to
not-
distinguish.
and you are ignoring the other problem, Anthony. You're focusing on one issue and ignoring the other one that's being raised that invalidates this model.
Which is
If you were to
what's the other one?
if you were to walk from south to north, you would see as you did, and of course on a flat Earth, you're not going to get this counter rotation. You would see them changing at one point where you could see because you do accept at the equator, you can see both sets of stars. So therefore, as you moved away, when you went past underneath the one, say, at Uruguay, you could still see some of the stars in the northern hemisphere, and you would therefore be able to see by looking north stars rotating in different directions.
No.
I cannot believe you can't understand this.
No, I understand that, Rumpus, and
No,
you're
you
comparing.
don't. No, you
contrasting.
You're wrong,
And I'm
Rumpus.
comparing. It's the same thing. You're making
my
it a
God.
contrast point, and I'm saying all stars rise in the east and they all set in the west. All you're
Yes.
doing is changing what you're looking at from the south
Try
to the
and
north.
imagine yourself in Uruguay
Your
there. Try and imagine yourself in
perspective is
Uruguay, looking north, where you could see most of the stars in the northern sky, and your model would have them rotating in different directions.
No, Rumpus.
Once they got past the equator. Because
Rumpus.
They
what
wouldn't.
you've done is you've drawn, at the equator, you've generated two sets of stars.
Sorry,
Goodness
can I
knows
just
what
ask a quick
happens
question?
when you
Sorry,
create-
Anthony and Rumpus. Can I just ask
You
you both a
understand the
question?
point?
Sorry, Anthony, Rumpus. So, are you both of the understanding that they travel in the same direction? They're both on this travelling clockwise?
No, they're
anti-clockwise. My apologies. Anti-clockwise.
They travel from east to west.
Right, so they're both travelling anti-clockwise, right?
The south one's going anti-clockwise.
Hold on,
the north.
hold on, Anthony. I want to establish if Rumpus thinks that in this model that you're showing, these two things, what the bottom's travelling clockwise, the top's travelling anti-clockwise, or they're both travelling anti-clockwise. Which is it, Rumpus?
Right, as far as I understand what he's saying is they rotate in anti-direction. So the stars that are on the you can see in the distance, the top half of the top circle, for instance. So the one, say, between 10 and 2 will be going clockwise, and if someone observe at the south would then see other stars that are just near him going in the other direction. So if you imagine an observer,
sorry, Rumpus, I'll ask one more time because I'm still unclear about the answer. I'm really sorry. Anthony, can you just move your picture up? Bring that star picture back up, please. So, right, as we look at them now, as we look down on them now, are they both travelling in the same direction as a clock face would be travelling both anti-clockwise? Or are you suggesting that as we look down on them now, one is travelling clockwise and one is travelling anti-clockwise? Which is it?
Anthony told me that they're travelling in one's clockwise and one's anti-clockwise. He told me that's
not what he said. He said it about 100 times.
Anthony, are you claiming they're rotating in the same direction or different direction, or opposite to one another?
I don't know if I've not made myself clear or whether Rumpus is deliberately obfuscating, but let me just clarify it so everybody understands. That all the stars are rising in the east and they're setting in the west. So you got this star that's spinning around that way.
Please tell me which way clockwise they're doing. That was the question.
Just look at the arrows, Rumpus. Come on.
Right, now, Anthony, can you please tell me what if I put a clock on the center of the top set of circles? Which way would the stars be revolving around in the top concentric set of circles?
Can you see the arrows? It's
I want to ask Anthony. I want to make absolutely sure.
Let Anthony and Rumpus just get to the end of this point. I want them to get a consensus about which way they're going. So if you can just let Rumpus and Anthony thrash this out.
All right.
Right, Anthony. So are the top set of stars going in a clockwise direction?
Yes.
Right, and what about the bottom set of stars? Are they going in a clockwise direction?
They're going in the opposite, Rumpus.
Exactly what I was saying, and Nathan thought you said the opposite. Right.
But the point is, all stars...
So I was right in exactly what I said you had said. And
you were correct, Rumpus.
I'm not sure. It's getting that obfuscated. It's difficult to know what the facts are. Let's be clear. All the stars, Rumpus, rise in the east and set in the west.
Yeah.
Do you understand that?
Right, but do you understand that entails what you've said about the clockwise and anti-clockwise direction of those circling stars? And that therefore, if you're an observer, say in Uruguay, looking north...
That would only be the case, Rumpus, if your observer started off in the south and went to the north and he was looking north. And then when he got to the equator, spun round and then headed to going to the north, but backwards.
Okay. Imagine an observer in Uruguay. Can you see where Uruguay is? There's a star there.
Sure.
There. Just south. There we go. Stop there. Right. Now imagine there's an observer there. Now this is the anti-clockwise star set you've got here. So that star to its right will be going from right to left.
And at this point, which way is the observer facing? He's facing north, isn't he?
He's facing north.
Right. Okay.
Right. Now he looks at a star that is above the north point. That star is going from left to right. He's looking north and he's seeing one set of star, the close one to him, going from right to left, and he's looking at the distant stars above the yellow cyan line where it says north upside down. Those stars will be going right to left.
Yeah,
so we have two looking at stars.
No, they would actually be under the horizon.
They'd be crossing one another.
No,
they would be under the horizon from that location.
In the west.
Yes, but what you don't understand, Anthony, is you've got the set of stars above is moving in the opposite direction. And you're
they're not. They're not.
Look, they are in the top circle. In the top circle, do you accept that the stars above the cyan line are going from left to right, but the stars below that are going from right to left?
No, they're all going from the right to the left.
Anthony, they're going around in a circle, which means that the stars at the top of the circles are going in opposite directions to the bottom of the circles.
No, Rumpus.
The circles are going in opposite directions.
Oh my God! Let's go through this slowly. Anthony, imagine the star at the center of the north thing. The stars to the north of that are going to from left
Who
to
cares?
right.
We can't see them stars, Rumpus.
Hold on. Let's get this sorted out. So if you imagine this, where the center of that top set of stars are, the concentric circles, the stars to the north of that are going across from left to right. To south of him, they're going from right to left. So if you move the observation point back down to Uruguay, you will see stars going from right to left and left to right to the north of you.
No, you
What?
wouldn't, because
Oh my God.
that northern part would be under the
Jesus
horizon.
Am I not explaining this properly, Philip?
No, you're
That's
getting
Sean.
it wrong.
No, you're misinterpreting it.
Philip,
Yeah,
Sean,
you
can you
misinterpret
The
it.
actual
see what I'm
field
saying?
of view is a circle,
Rumpus, I
pretty
think
much
you're
as wide as one
misinterpreting
of
the
these
diagram.
circles, and you
I
can
think so
see
too.
both
Well,
of these circles at the same time.
Hold on, but to
All
see
of
those
it.
things ahead of you,
So-
the stars are going. Do you understand that the stars are going from left to right on the
East.
are
Can we
above
say
the,
east to west?
sign line? Okay, the star. Do you accept that the stars above the cyan line are going? You said they were going clockwise. Therefore, they're going from left to right.
Oh,
Do
you
accept
mean
that?
if you're looking north?
Yes. And the stars below the cyan line are going from right to left.
No. All the stars are going from the
Do
east
that?
to the
No,
west.
I think I know what you're trying to say. I mean, it depends on where those, like,
If you're
where
looking, if
they
you're an
are
observer in
relative
Uruguay,
to.
if you're an observer in Uruguay and you're looking north, the stars above that cyan line will be going left to right, and the stars below will be going right to left.
But it will
That's
look
because
like
you're
an
changing the
it'll look like
direction.
an oval, won't it?
That's because you're changing your perspective. All the stars are
Oh
going the
my
same
God.
way.
There's a
No,
simple
they're not.
problem here.
They're going in different directions. They have to be.
I know, there's
Because
definitely
You
a
changed your
more-
position, Rumpus, from looking north to now looking south.
No,
Of
I'm
course
looking
they're gonna be
north.
different.
Right,
Rumpus.
I'll say it again. For an observer in
No,
Uruguay,
I think I get what he's saying, is that the stars directly rotating around the northern pole star,
they're
that
going in
in
different
that small
directions. If they're above
circle,
the sun
if it's
line, they're going
above the
one way. If they're
horizon,
below the
they
sun line, they're
would
going the other
indeed
way.
move
You'll be seeing
differently.
stars going in opposite directions.
No.
Jesus
The only time you see
Christ.
stars going in the opposite direction, Rumpus, is if you change your orientation and look the opposite direction.
The model is
Correct.
wrong.
No, the model works perfectly, Rumpus. It works the
doesn't.
same
That-
both
No,
ways.
it doesn't
Hold
work
on, hold on.
perfectly.
No,
Definitely
it
not.
does work.
It
It
does not
definitely
work
does.
perfectly.
You
It's not a
just
literal
guys can't picture it.
representation.
That's all. That's not my problem. That's
No,
yours.
you're
No,
wrong.
no,
You're not.
no. There's a serious
There's
flaw
a-
with this.
There's another
Yes.
serious flaw. If
Thank you,
an
Philip.
observer
Oh.
standing at the equator on your model there, Anthony, and looking east, there's going to be a void of stars directly east and west.
As well as that, yeah, I was going to get onto that.
Well,
It's not
How far do
literal.
you
It's
think we
not
can
a
see when we
literal
look up to the sky? Do you
representation.
think we can see light years away?
It's a lot more than 60 miles, Anthony.
These are
Hold
two
on, surely-
No, don't
awful
skirt that,
spheres.
Sean. Hold on, please,
full-
please,
But
please.
if you're
Hold
a-
on, both of you. Right, I'll mute you both. So Sean's just made a good point. So as you're looking to the east in this model, according to what
Let me
Sean
ask
just said, there should be a great big void with no stars in it at all. So how do you address that?
It's not
Me?
The mo-
No,
Model's
you've
wrong.
made the point, Sean. You've made the point. I just want to see how Anthony addresses it.
There wouldn't be a void. It's proximity. The
So there is
stars
in
are
your
far
model.
enough
There's a
away
literal,
that we can't
in
see
your
all
models,
of the
there's a
stars.
literal
Again,
void there.
Anthony,
I can see
it leads back to how far away is the sun when it sets and rises.
I have no idea how far away the sun is when it sets and rises.
Well, it depends on where the sun's at in its path between the tropics. But let's just say on the equinox, if you're standing on the equator, how far away is the sun when it touches the horizon?
I have no idea. It depends on what set of math you use.
It doesn't matter what the set of math you use is. It's going to be work either way on the flat or globe. How far you can just tell how far away the sun is, or how far away you can see in the sky when the sun sets and rises.
No, that's not true. If you have a triangle set for the trig for a flat plane, and then you do the same triangle for the trig but on a ball,
Well, we're just talking about going by where we know the sun is directly over when it sets and rises compared to your location. On the equinox, when the sun rises
call
and
it an
sets on a
angular
flat or a
position.
globe, we can tell how far away the sun is based on where it's at directly over at that time.
no, we can't. How can we do that?
Because we know where the sun's at, where solar noon is at everywhere else in the world. It's really easy.
Yeah, but
I know
the
Nathan's not
angular
going to like to hear me
position-
say this, but timeanddate.com and suncalc.org are accurate on saying where the sun is directly over.
yeah, but when you do you remember when Cara Diane showed how the equinox worked? with
And
regards
now
to the
you're
sun?
trying to avoid the point. I asked you how far away the sun's location was when it sets and rises from an observer
Your
on the equator.
equinox example relies on rising due east and due west, correct?
No, I'm just talking about distance. I'm not talking about direction.
I have no idea because, like I said, it depends on whether we have a curve to our
It is
bottom
exactly
angle.
1/4 of the way around the planet, either flat or sphere. It doesn't matter. The sun is directly over a location 1/4 of the way around a sphere or the flat disk. Doesn't matter. So again, how far away is the sun?
You're
when it sets and
assuming two
rises?
models.
I have
like
no
they're
idea
the only
because I don't know
ones.
what matter we're going to be using if we're based on a ball or on a plane. The answer is I do not know. Nor do you, for that matter.
But
No.
we do.
Perfectly.
No, you don't.
No, you've done maths to calculate it based on a ball.
It all agrees. It all supports when all the independent evidence supports the same thing, and that's on a spherical Earth. And it all.
While we get into that consensus opinion, I'll do my final link. So we've got approximately, I think, about 30 minutes left on this live stream. Quite well, that's not working. There we go. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it's live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you'd like to join the show, simply click the link in the info box below this video. Be sure to mute the page you are currently watching before you do so. If you join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as this increases the live audience, of course, and that in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. There's around 25 minutes left on this live stream.
Of no stars at all, directly east and west.
Yeah,
Right.
because if they were actually there, if they were at that position at least, and they rotated around the circle you think, they would actually overlap with the stars and going the other direction in the other set of concentric circles.
Well, you
Right.
could just put
These
in some
stars are far enough
crazy-
away so that you would never be able to
Insane.
see beyond to where the void would be. This void that would be here,
And how far away is that, Anthony?
who knows? How far
we know,
away are the
we
stars?
know the distance.
Jesus.
We know how far away the sun is when it sets and rises on both models.
How do we know how far away the sun is?
No, we don't.
Again, it's
We don't
just
know
simple
that.
measurements with
Right.
going by where the
We
sun's
don't know
location is directly
No, you
over.
got
when it
angular
sets in your
relations
location.
to the position of the Earth. That's all you got.
It's just where can you see the sun on the solstice or the
Equinox.
whatever the day? Yeah, equinox. Yes.
Yeah,
So,
we did that.
so what was the answer to the question then? We can tell how far
This
the sun
invalidates
is.
your model.
You're desperate, Anthony. This is
No.
desperate.
How
stuff.
do we know how
Absolutely
far away
desperate.
the sun is?
It doesn't matter.
Well, we do know. We
Yes,
know
it
by
does.
various ways. We've actually bounced radars off it. We can also work it out from the Kepler's laws and
We can bounce
observations of
radars
Mars.
off the sun, can we?
And Venus transits enabled us to do that as well by using
Venus
parallax.
So we've
Sorry?
already dealt with the Venus transits one. That was
No, you
based
haven't.
on the
And we're
transit
not
of
talking
Mars,
about the
wasn't it?
distance to the
Because
sun
you
itself.
do- you
We're talking
work a
about how
distance.
far away it
Important.
is when it
You
sets
don't
and
know
rises.
the distance to the sun. You do not know it. So if
We
you want
do.
to say, "Oh, we've already
Perfectly.
dealt with the transit of Venus," no, you haven't.
No, you haven't. I explained
this
to you
is
how
a
it
topic
works.
change to
We can
save
do it with
Anthony.
parallax.
Yeah.
No, we
It's
can
not
do
a
it with
topic
parallax.
You asked me how far away is the sun, and I gave you the answer. I do not know. You then said you know the distance to the sun at sunset. I asked you how you know that, and so
we
far
can
there's
put a
not been an
bound.
answer.
We can put a bound on how far it is.
You
A
can
what,
put a
sorry?
what?
We can put a
No, you can't.
lower
You can't.
bound.
You can't prove it is at any distance.
Yes,
can't
we
even
can.
prove it's a
Because we
physical
know the distance
object.
between
You just
locations
know
on
the
on the surface
angular
of the Earth.
relations between
And
the heavenly bodies,
if the sun is-
including the sun, in relation to the position on the Earth. That's all you got.
How far away that point to the horizon is.
They worked
Sure.
out in 1673. They worked out how the distance of the sun, and we've had better calculations since. And of course,
Right.
we've had satellites that's gone over it, and we can do parallax and from Kepler's laws. We can derive where it is and do direct measurements using radar and all sorts of other means,
Just
and
deriving
doing
it.
parallax
You don't
measurements
know
against
it.
the,
You
the
don't
stars
know
and all
the
sorts of ways.
distance to the sun. It's just derivatives and extrapolations. That's all it is. You don't know.
We do. No, I think that's every single
Our-
independent,
Oh, okay,
every measure we've ever
moving on
made.
we're moving on
Yeah.
from the
Of the
Measure
location.
it till you blue in the
trillion.
face.
Rumpus.
You're not verifying the distance. You don't know the distance.
We're moving on from the known distances across the surface of the Earth, be it round or flat, of where the sun is directly over, and comparing it for sunrise and sunsets to another location with knowing the location of the sun. So we know the distances from those points.
No.
And now you're
No,
moving
you know
on
the
to knowing
angular
actual-
relations.
the Earth to the sun.
Listen, we know the distances, but the problem with the distances between known locations, as I've got on screen, you can still see my screen, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when we have known angle here, which would be X, and then we have known angle there, which would be Y, if the Earth's a flat plane, that gives you a local sun. But if we have the same angles here and the same angles there, but we have the angled 33, that opens up the angle massively here and puts it a really distant sun.
Yes, that's true. But
So
that means that the
maths works
sun
out both ways, and I assert that you do not know the distance to the sun.
And
great.
that is
Anthony,
totally
hold on,
avoiding
I've
the
got an
actual
important
question
point
I
to make.
asked you.
I've got an important point to make about this. Anthony, now do it for 3 observations, and you'll find they don't cross on a flat Earth, but they do all cross on a spherical Earth.
Yeah,
That
I'm
measurement
not.
invalidates
The same
Four
measurement
observers.
applies. You can apply the same math. So if you were to do that measurement, Rumpus, like Sly Sparkane did with the moon, and then say, right, look, it doesn't match up for a flat Earth as he showed it didn't. Well, then all you would do if you were to apply the sphere maths is insert the sphere maths into the same exact equation. Not only would it show that it failed absolutely horrendously by comparison to flat Earth, but it proves that it's spurious, and you'd use the exact same measurements for both. All Sly did when he did that measurement to the moon was fail to demonstrate how utterly ridiculous it is when you extrapolate that out and put the things you're trying to measure at huge astronomical distances away. If he'd have showed the same graph, showed the same result, and just inserted the spherical trig, you'd end up with an absolutely horrendous result. Nothing would be crossing over. Nothing would be lined up. So how dare you assert that, Rumpus, when you use the same measurements, regardless of whether or not you insert a bit of spherical trig in them, you'd get the same exact measurements and you'd apply the same thing to the sphere. But it would also demonstrate how terrible it failed on the sphere and how much closer you were to accurate on a flat plane, because the margin of error is considerably less. If you're out measuring it on a flat plane, you're out measuring it on a sphere.
Right, I'm showing a diagram here of what happens when you do 2 measurements. Of course, you're going to get a cross. So what Anthony's done, he's done the classic Aristotle's trick, and he's only used 2 angles. For that, you will end up with a measurement of the moon being about 3,000 miles. If you then go away and do a 3rd measurement, you get the problem I've got on my screen here, where the 3 lines you get for the observation all cross at different points on a flat Earth. But if you do it on a spherical Earth, they all agree exactly where the moon or the sun is.
Now,
you do it on a flat Earth, it doesn't work.
I accept the point you've just made. Can you answer this? What happens when you do it with a
That's totally nonsense. That's absolute
nonsense.
It
works as well. It works perfectly.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Oh, it does. Absolutely perfect on a spherical Earth.
No, it doesn't.
No,
when you have a 4th person, you prove one of 2 things. Either astronomical refraction is a lot bigger than what we perceive, or the sun's not an actual target, it's not tangible. Because when you get...
You're completely wrong. You didn't even know about this until I mentioned it 2 months ago, Anthony. 4 observations will give you exactly the same result.
No, it doesn't. Not will does. You just said 4 observers will give you the same. It doesn't. 4 observers proves that either astronomical refraction is bigger than what we expect, or the sun's not a tangible object.
Give us a reference
it supports neither model.
Right. Sly did a video. Hold on. Sly did a video on this very subject. Hold on. Sly did a video on this very subject. He actually got lots of people around the world to take observations of the moon, and they all agreed. So he did more than 4.
He didn't show the spherical results,
and they all agreed where the sun and moon were.
What did Sly not show, though, Rumpus?
He didn't show the spherical result. He only showed the flat plane result.
No, he didn't. He put it on.
Yes, he did. So at the end of the video, it stops after him saying, "Oh well, look, they don't converge, therefore fail." Well, he didn't extrapolate it out and insert the globe maths, now did he?
He did.
And show how terrible. No, he did not.
You've forgotten the video.
No,
he
did not.
Backwards, and all the observer angles were maintained over a sphere. But what he didn't show was the zooming out picture where they're all supposed to meet at the sun.
Correct.
Because you only need to be a midgey dick off one side, and you're going to miss the sun completely.
Precisely my point. If he'd have actually shown the extrapolation out with the spherical maths, he'd have shown that it was a horrendous fail. And you're saying, oh, well, it would have worked perfectly. Well, he didn't show it. He didn't demonstrate
what
that.
You're saying is, although he had all those lines he had lined up, all pointing, you're saying there's what might be a very slight error, which means the sun wouldn't be exactly right. But the point is they cross very, very close to one another within the margins of error.
Oh, so suddenly, when it's about to be referenced to the globe, they're really close. But that same level of closeness proves a fail on the flat plane. But now you're about to extrapolate it out and insert a bit of spherical maths. Now they're really close. So let's just take it as that then. It's all right. They were really close, Anthony. the way they converged was great. They were really, really close according to Rumpus. So that's a total
Yeah, a margin
win,
of
I would
error
say.
on the globe is okay, but on the flat Earth it has to be perfect or it's wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's a total fail unless they completely converge. Depending on who you've got out there measuring it, you might have some complete muppet retard measuring these angles to the moon. But we'll just say that they're really close because we're about to do some extrapolation that says it's a globe.
They were very close. Within the experimental error, they were perfectly fine.
Excellent. So that's a great proof of the flat Earth then. If they were really close, then that proves it's flat. Excellent. Thank you, Rumpus, for coming on the show and proving the Earth is flat with Sly Sparkane's evidence. You're an absolute testament. You're the best person for flat Earth out there, Rumpus. I'm really glad to have you on the show.
Nathan,
Thank you.
I'm glad you
Thank
don't
you
have
for
any
proving
arguments
the
for this.
flat
It's
Earth
hilarious.
again.
It invalidated the flat Earth and confirmed the spherical Earth absolutely perfectly.
Right, because they're really close when you say that you're going to extrapolate it out with globe maths, but they're a mile off when they're on the flat plane, right, Rumpus?
I missed the question.
Yeah, they're really close when you're about to extrapolate the maths out for sphericity, but when they're actually on a flat plane, the same measurements, of course, they're miles off, right?
Actually, they're not.
Yeah,
Nathan.
because
they were
exactly
way
because
off.
they're spin.
Yeah, but no, they're the same measurements, and you just insert a tiny bit of extra maths if you were going to extrapolate it out for a sphere. The problem being when you do that, it would be horrendous because the outcome of stuff that's supposed to be exponentially further away is that if you get the angle slightly wrong, it's massively out. You're not going to get anything converging on the moon if you put it on the in the spherical model and just added that bit of maths in, which is all you'd have to do. He just didn't demonstrate that total fail that would have occurred. And you're now saying, well, it would have been a total win. No, not at all.
Nathan,
when you extrapolate it out with the globe maths, the problems get worse, not better, Rumpus. If you miss measuring it on a flat plane with something that you assume is closer, then when you assume is massively further away, the problem is exponentially worse. You miss by a mile, not by an inch. So yeah,
a mile
Nathan,
that would have demonstrated a huge globe fail had he extrapolated it out. He just didn't bother showing that bit. He just didn't bother.
Nathan, it's been touted on that you have an accurate model to scale of Ranty's demonstration, and I haven't seen it yet.
Which demonstration?
Where he made Snæfell Mountain 20 miles high.
Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry. Fill me in a bit more.
You did that little 178B live where Ranty put up a model that was using 1 centimeter equals 1 mile and tried to claim it was a scale model at 5 minutes or was it 6 minutes 30 seconds? Or was
right,
it about 5
where
minutes?
he missed the line by about a millimeter, and you guys all zoomed in. And
no, he used a scale of 1 centimeter equals 1 mile. So his vertical scale, which would also have to be the same to claim it as a scale model, which he did state in that video, in that little hangout, would make Snæfell Mountain 20 miles high.
Yeah.
Right. Can I ask a question, Sean?
Hold on. Let Nathan ask this point because it's very.
Why is he asking me?
Nathan
Why
said yesterday
Hang on, stop.
that Ranty had not claimed it was a scale
Are we
model.
going over all of this
He did claim
again?
it was a scale model.
Seriously?
He claimed it was a scale model.
Wait. Let me ask this question before
Hold
Nathan
on, you
answers.
interrupted me, Anthony. I'll try the point. Ranty
Yeah, I
claimed
know
it was
I
a scale
interrupted
model in the video.
What's
Let me finish,
Ranty
Anthony.
claimed. Why don't you ask
Ranty claimed it was a
Ranty?
scale model.
Ask Ranty.
Right,
Well,
hang on,
he made
let
the
me
claim
ask
in
Sean a
the
question.
video.
Go ahead.
Right. I didn't see. I saw bits of the show. I was working at the time.
So why are
I
you
was listening.
commenting then, Anthony?
You're interrupting.
It's an 8-minute video, so how can you only see part of the show?
I saw what he did in the 8-minute video. I
Mhm.
also appreciate that what he was doing was showing a relational what he was showing.
He claimed it was to scale, Anthony. He claimed it was to scale.
Yeah.
Which makes him saying Snæfell is 20 miles high. Great
But
stuff.
what he
Well
was
done, Ranty.
demonstrating,
No.
would you agree? It was proportionate to itself, not to the
No.
axis,
No,
but
it was
to
What does
not
that
itself.
to
even
scale.
mean, Anthony?
For the experiment, it
scale.
didn't need to
Here's
be
the
to
problem
scale.
with using 2 different scales, Anthony. Because one of the objects is closer, it will seem to get apparently larger angular sized faster than the further away object. So it throws the scale off.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
throws the
There's
result
the
off.
angles off.
Throws
Yeah.
the result off.
That's true or not, but I can take your word for it. But what I saw him do didn't look too wrong. That's all.
Well, you're an idiot then, because it was so obviously not to scale. When he claimed it was to scale, it wasn't.
See, this is the problem, Anthony. These things actually matter when you're trying to find
You
the
don't
truth about
understand.
something.
So
Yeah, but
when Rumpus presented something that was also not to scale afterwards, and I said, using the exact same straw man argument, well, this isn't to scale, Rumpus, he said, oh, well, that's perfectly acceptable when I do it.
There was
there was yeah. So literally straight after you had a condensed version. So you ripped Ranty a new one for this scale problem, and then you presented something that had exactly the same thing applied. It wasn't to scale, and then I pointed that out to you that it wasn't to scale, and I used your exact same straw man argument against you, and you didn't like it very much from memory. It was quite funny.
I loved it, Nathan.
It's a very stupid argument, Nathan.
Because
so it's a stupid argument when Rumpus does it, but it's a perfectly acceptable argument to hold against Ranty. Okay, got it.
Really good response.
Just got that clear. So it's okay. It's a cool argument against Ranty, but a stupid argument against Rumpus, even though it's the exact same argument.
Explain to you what I'm doing.
Yeah,
but I
what
don't
Ranty
use
did.
the maths based on the diagram.
That's what Ranty did too.
The maths is separate. The diagrams are for your benefit.
Of course, the maths
so you understand
is separate.
what the maths
It's always
is doing.
separate. Separate
so
from
the
the
diagrams
evidence.
don't have to be to scale. They're
Stands
for
alone,
teaching
doesn't it?
purposes
Maths stands
to you.
above everything.
But the
But
maths
here's
is
the
what it
thing.
does. The
Here's the thing.
diagrams
You
are
just,
to
Rumpus,
reflect
you just
what
said
quiet,
that
let
it
me-
didn't
let
need
me
to be
say
to
something real
scale,
quick.
and that's the whole point. For that measurement, it didn't need to be to scale.
But when we drew it to scale, which I've done that on a flat and a sphere, the sphere matched Ranty's picture exactly. The flat model did not when it was done to scale.
So when we did it to scale on a model, it matched the flat plane perfectly and didn't match the globe. It was wrong on the globe and matched perfectly on a flat plane. So I would assert from that unequivocally that it's flat and that the globe model fails completely because we modeled it too.
But that's why I asked you what I did when I first asked this. I want to see your model. People have been saying
I
you have
really
one.
like to see this evidence.
Yeah, fair enough. When Chris Monk's available, I'll get him to stick it up.
Okay, I'll hold you to it.
Can I just ask, like, further to my last question, which was about the scale and why it didn't seem to make that much difference. I when I did my own maths on it, my initial reaction was that Snaefell should be taller. I agreed, right? However, it was only taller by 39 feet over 31 miles, which really is like a pixel or two. And the difference between the two observations was that small that I really couldn't distinguish which one would be correct and which one would not be.
Okay,
If I
great.
didn't know which ones.
Actually, Anthony, when I modeled on both, on the flat model, Snaefell was about 20 meters taller than New Barul or North Barul, and on the sphere, it's about 15 to 20 meters above, like it's supposed to, like, and it matched. It matched Ranty's picture perfectly.
Hang on.
Riley, can you see my screen?
Just give me 1 sec.
Okay.
I'm just going to check. You guys chat a sec. I'm just going to check these two. You guys carry on. I'll come back to you in a sec.
Okay.
well,
I mean, I saw the
You're on,
hangout you
Philip.
did with Slash on, and yeah, it was really nice. I also independently verified it on a different photo from LK. So I calculated basically the angular difference between Snaefell and North Barul on both models, and then using this image, using the focal length of the P900 to get the field of view, and then scaling everything appropriately, I was able to show basically that this blue distance is exactly what the globe model predicts geometrically for where the top of Snaefell should be, and this green mark goes to where Snaefell should be on a flat Earth, and it basically matches.
And on
up
another
perfectly with
picture,
the image.
it seemed different. So personally, I think that picture
No, I'd
that
agree with Phil.
LK
I mean,
took
that represents.
just has
correct me
a
if I'm
little
wrong, Phil.
distortion in it due to the air density
Correct me
that
if I'm
makes
wrong,
it look
Philip.
different,
That's-
and it doesn't work out.
That's representative of 60 feet, correct? Or 70 feet, maybe. Is it 70 or 60?
Yeah, roughly speaking, yeah. I mean, I did it with angles, so
we got the same result when we modelled it. It's much of a muchness within 60 feet.
the point is the spherical Earth model predicts that North Barul will be higher. The flat Earth model predicts that Snaefell will be higher. Therefore,
the point is that this
photographs-
is a
hold on, Philip. So the
ahead.
photographs support the spherical Earth model, and they contradict the flat Earth model. It's as simple as that.
Cool. So when are you guys going to contrast it with one of the other mountains?
Well, hang on. Can I?
Oh,
just,
I would do that.
hang
We'd be
on.
happy to do that.
Before we move
More
to
than
the
happy.
mountains point, let me just ask a question. Why was refraction not even considered in this discussion?
right. Let me
Well,
show you.
Okay,
me
Well,
show you.
because you made how many videos you've made that saying the refraction is I'm just going to use the
Negligible.
initials here, BS.
Yeah, but have you noticed that
he
when-
made videos upon videos that refraction doesn't exist, and then when he came out of Nathan's,
Yeah, but
all of
the
that
thing
changed.
is, though, my point is when it suits you, refraction's not even an issue. And on this occasion, it appears
I'll
to
explain
suit.
why. explain why, Anthony. At
Well,
this
hang
level,
on, we know that
Well,
Skunk
I'll
Bay
tell you,
totally
you can ask me a
changes.
question, and I can explain it. I'll explain to you. At this level, and Philip will do a demonstration in a second, I think, that this angle, near the top of the mountain, as I explained to you in a hangout about 2 weeks ago, the refraction is much less than at the horizon. So at the level of the tops of the mountains, refraction is much less significant.
Right,
It's
but
quite
we also
simple.
saw in Soundley's observation with the little Tensus Bayou that when you put all the lamps on the 8 stanchions over the 8-mile distance, we saw that all of the lights independently acted differently to themselves. Some of them went up and some of them went down independently.
So, Riley, what's the difference between the mountains and those lights?
Well, they're exactly the same.
No, they're not. They're definitely
So
not.
Soundly showing that the lights were independently moving like up and down indepently of each other. Why is it not the case that the mountain peaks could be doing the exact same
I'll
thing?
answer that, and I'll let Philip actually answer
because those lights are close to the horizon.
Hooray! Yes,
They're close to the surface near the inversion layer. This layer that you like to talk about, which is hiding half of the bottom of the mountains on the Isle of Man.
So can I ask you a quick question then? So does refraction not apply at all to the tops of these mountains?
It applies a little bit.
It's
Sorry,
very
straight. Hold on.
Altitude.
I want to get Rumpus's answer. A simple yes or no. Is the top of the mountain being refracted or not?
Very slightly.
So that's a yes. So there is refraction.
Very slightly, yes. Everything's refracted very slightly. And if
Doesn't matter, slightly or not slightly, we have refraction that has to be taken into consideration.
Of refraction.
So we cannot ignore refraction, Rumpus, correct?
It's very small in this particular situation.
Just a simple yes or no. Can we, in your model, can we ignore the refraction calculation?
Yes, we can ignore
for the tops
refraction.
of the mountains, you could probably just about get away with it for the tops of the mountains.
So
right, can you share my screen?
I just want to ask, sorry, let me just round this out because we're going to end shortly. So when Chris Monk asked you on Steve's show to draw a straight line and calculate the angle to the top of Snaefell, why did it take you 20 minutes to come back with an arc calculation?
Because I didn't quite understand what he was asking me. What he was really asking me for was what does the eye level do, and I then kept.
That's not what he asked you. He asked you for the angle to the top of Snaefell.
Man, oh man,
I missed the question there. Sorry.
I'll ask it again, so maybe he can come back with an answer. Because I'll double check with Chris if he still wants an answer from you. But the specific question he asked you was what is the angle to the top of Snaefell Mountain?
Right.
So he would be, at that point, drawing a straight line, just to give you clarity about what would happen once he gets that number from you, Rumpus, now that you're saying it's acceptable to draw a straight line to the top of Snaefell Mountain and give us an angle. That's what I would...
Angle with respect to what?
Yeah, exactly. What are you saying? You want the angle from the base of the mountain?
You know how trig works, right? You morons know how trig works, right?
Well,
hey, moron! You need 2 lines to measure an angle.
Do you want the angle from the base of the mountain, the horizon, or from eye level?
Yeah, there are 3 you can have.
Well, give me all 3 then.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay.
Hang on. Let's give Rumpus the chance to go and work them out. But in the meantime, Nate, just share my screen a sec.
Be a problem with your refraction zone anyway.
Yep, you're up. Got about 60 seconds.
So this is Rumpus's citation for the effects of refraction based on the angle of observation.
Right, yeah. That's right.
Now,
correct.
We don't know the angle of observation, but what I can tell you is that when you're looking 30 miles across the horizon towards these things are not very big on the horizon, so the angle isn't going to be that big. It's going to be quite a small angle.
Correct.
How much refraction is being affected by the picture, Rumpus, according to the graph? I mean, it's difficult to judge, but it's not that high off the horizon. We're talking
is for stars.
Yeah,
this is for stars, right? Last time I checked, mountains aren't stars.
Oh, is this for stars? Is it?
Yes.
It is for celestial refraction. That formula actually.
Oh, okay.
But it does reflect also.
Is
now,
this
diagram?
Is this the one for terrestrial?
No, that diagram you also misunderstood. That is a diagram of what the atmosphere does with pressure, density, and temperature. And you misunderstood that to be an angle of refraction because you misunderstood, as you always do,
Isn't that what
the information you're given.
So what was the other question? Is this is this the relevant?
No.
Right. No, it's not. Go back to the previous one, Anthony. Go back to the previous thing. Right. Now this is
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate, and of course a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!